get Patreon going so I can copy the link from
Let's
YouTube. Yeah,
go.
looks like we're live.
Let's get it. Let's go. Let's go.
How are the Warriors
Uh,
doing, man? How's the war? Are they?
Still number 14 to I mean they still have a chance. Still have a
They've
chance,
been.
but they got like 5 games left. I mean if they win all five, it's a guarantee. They get four, maybe three, maybe we'll see. But it's getting real. NRL is very competitive, man.
Dude, there
Good
is no
teams.
there is no other rugby competition in the world that is, to me, as entertaining and as
Competitive.
successful as the NRL.
Mm, what's your thoughts on another loss to Spain at home?
Oh, dude,
Karitahi.
I don't know how to feel about that. That's kind of embarrassing.
I got good news though.
What is it?
It's just an exhibition match, so it's for fun and it feel good and just let people support their national team. But it's not a good sign going to the future.
No,
It looks like at least Samoa and Fiji are doing a lot better. They seem to be
they look
more,
good.
yeah. And I don't know. Well, I don't know what's going on. I got some people that's actually, I have a friend that sees the manager of the team. He's a good guy, but I think it's more of the. I don't know if it's the culture. There's something that is missing that is not good, but
Yeah.
not a good sign for the future,
No, and that's
especially
the
in
thing.
preparation for the World Cup.
Yeah. It's not only coming up to a World Cup, but why did Toku Taikefu want to leave? Um, you know, that to me is kind of some question marks. Is why is it's like you're saying, especially on a world lead up to a World Cup,
Mm, mm.
like
And
wondering
lose at
where
home to Spain. Like, come on,
Spain, come on. That's pretty weak, man.
come on,
Hey,
Spain.
welcome everybody.
Yeah,
We're starting to have the people jump on. We're gonna start here real soon. We're just getting some background work for Patreon to go live. So we'll be starting soon. Welcome to another digital Kava session on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. Go ahead, Masi. I just wanted to let everybody know we'll be
nice.
starting soon.
No, welcome everybody. We're gonna get started soon. No, it's just Spain should be a soccer nation, not a rugby nation. OMG, you know. Apparently, Spain won the soccer league. I guess the Europe League, whatever. They had a competition. They beat out England, so they're the champs of the European League.
Portugal lost.
Portugal lost. Yeah, Spain won it all. So
Yeah, we were in Europe when that whole Euro Cup or whatever was
mm,
going on, and it was in Germany.
eh,
So
big deal for
yeah,
that side of the world, eh?
yeah.
Soccer.
A lot of people told us, we were planning to go to Cologne, Germany,
Mm,
and a lot of people were like, "No, don't go there. It's chaos." So we ended up skipping Cologne. We just went to Frankfurt and then went back to the Netherlands.
nice.
Sweet. I think we're ready. Patreon is live, Mussy.
Okay,
I think let me just let's just go through our intro video and then we'll get rolling.
let's go.
Let's do it. Everybody get your digital Kava cups ready. Welcome everyone to another live digital Kava session here on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. We are currently running live on Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, and Instagram. And last but not least, our cousin Elon Musk, who finally gave us Starlink in Tonga on X. So pretty excited. We welcome everyone. Masi, how's everything in your neck of the woods?
Ooh, my neck of the woods in South Auckland is pretty good. Beautiful day today in New Zealand. Pretty clear sky, a little cloudy, but pretty good for this time of the season. Working from home today, I did a little, little stuff between, working from home like everybody else. When you work from home, I did some load of laundry and then took out some cushion because it was a nice day. Some cushion and stuff outside just to air it out because most of the days are always rainy
Mm.
during this time. So it was a beautiful day today, but overall pretty good. How about you? How's good old Texas? That
Dude,
side?
love Texas. Can't go wrong. Um, it was
Feel the
it's
heat?
actually oh dude, it was actually a beautiful last couple of days. We've had some storms, flood warning
Mm,
here. We've had some thunderstorms, which is nice because it cools down the weather from the heat because
mhm,
it gets pretty hot. And then also it was Latu Tama's birthday on the 21st. Today was Sita's birthday. And
mhm.
Bussy, when you were here in Texas, did you have Whataburger?
No, that's one of the things I need to try next time I go to Texas.
All right. So there's a couple things for our non-Texan viewers. I'm
Is
gonna
it better than In and Out? That's always to seem to be the rivals right there.
well, yeah,
Whataburger and
and In and
In
Out.
and Out.
Yeah, I
What's your
mean for a straight up just cheeseburger, I
mm,
prefer Whataburger, In and Out.
In and Out? Okay.
But like for variety of burgers and variety of different things to try,
Whataburger.
Whataburger is pretty good. I mean, big portions, spicy ketchup. Um, but what I wanted to do was to show. Let me see. I'm gonna text myself a couple pictures.
Mm,
And then I also wanted to introduce. I mean, you went to Bucky's, right, Mussy?
yes.
So let me do something real quick here. I want to show everyone a couple. I have 7 kids,
Hmm.
and uh, all right, Mussy, we have a comment here. I need you to verify. Renegade says this. All right, Renegade. We have Mr. Atearoa to comment while I work on these pictures here.
Yeah. Renegade, just any specifics like because I've tried the burgers at the fish and was it fish and chips places. To me, that's not that good. I don't know if it's because they don't put the proper mayonnaise that makes a big difference. But yeah, I don't know. I brought my
Yeah.
wife. My wife, she likes the burger. She prefers the burgers in America, especially her favorite is Five Guys in America.
Dude, Five Guys
That
is okay. They're
it's
expensive
okay.
though, man. That's the only thing
Yeah,
about Five Guys.
they're pretty pricey, but that's her favorite. That's her favorite burger place in the world at this moment. So yeah, there's the if you go and dine in, the burgers in New Zealand are pretty good. But I'm talking about like when you go and take out. Yeah, America still does it better. But yeah, if you can be specific, Renegade. If there's a specific place that I haven't tried yet.
He could be being sarcastic because he does have the emoji at the end there.
Okay,
So
okay.
this is what I'm gonna do. So first, I'm just gonna click on this and I'm gonna share something. So 4 of my kids are real Texans, right? So
Like they were born in the state of Texas.
bored, yes. So so this is Sita.
Hmm.
And what was her preferred choice for dinner today? I asked her, Sita, for your birthday, what are you wanting to
Whataburger
eat?
bag.
Straight up, she said, I want to go Whataburger.
Mm,
And my house is full of these. Like and they give you this for free. I think if you order anything over $80, they give you that bag. And because I have a big family, right? Every time
yeah,
we go to
yeah.
Whataburger, I'd probably
It's
say
80 bucks.
70% of the time they give us a bag like this because it's seven kids meals and then 2 adult meals. and then if
Some side
somebody
burgers, some side,
exactly if you want any side stuff. So, but just to kind
and
of
it's
show you,
large.
yes, yes. So Renegade gave some clarification. The Wendy's Baconators here in New Zealand, in and out, good though. Yeah. I will say this: New Zealand's quality of the food and stuff, like the chicken, I think, and maybe I haven't had a ton of burgers, but maybe the beef. I don't know, but I think the quality of the food there is pretty good. So,
Yes, no, and that's the benefit of New Zealand. It's a smaller population,
mm,
still high premium, grass fed meat, which is pretty good quality. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's right there. I'm not a fan of Wendy's burgers. This is my personal choice. I find them dry. That's just my
really,
thing. Yeah,
really, I
I find
love
them.
Wendy's, man.
I'm not a fan of Wendy's burgers, but that's just me.
Dang, Mussy. I'm surprised to hear that.
Mm, yeah, that
Hey,
was my.
Water Bears, welcome, welcome.
Water
Uh, that's the problem with the digital Kava session, Toko. It's online and the wives can audit. The wives can audit these things, okay? But glad you could make it. I'm
Follow,
trying
follow.
I'm trying to share and open. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Um, we're doing. I'm trying to show some pictures here, but I wanted to talk about. Um, Let me just share this. Bucky's. I know, Mussy, we didn't get to go to the big Bucky's while you were here. We went to the original, the
Yes, the
very first
first one.
Bucky's. But those who are not from Texas, another thing besides Whataburger is Bucky's. And
Mm.
it is obviously my daughter's baptism there. It is the largest. When I say largest, not the total quantity, this store sizes, just the sizes of their stores, the largest in the world. So this is the brand new Bucky's that just opened about an hour from my house. We drove there, 75,000 square feet.
It's the
Two,
largest.
this is now the largest, probably for another 6 to 7 months, because they're building one in Florida that's going to be over 80,000 square feet.
Okay, you can't have Florida to have the biggest
Well,
Buc-ee's where it came from.
that's exactly what my kids said, right? When they found
Yeah.
out Florida, because this is the same thing that happened. The one by my house that we take everyone to, that was the largest in the world. Um, Maria Brown Monk, he said, almost thought Bucky's had a chapel. But it's so coming back. So that was the largest. Then they built one in Tennessee that was, or Arkansas, that was going to be the largest.
Arkansas, Arkansas.
Arkansas. Then people in Texas wrote Bucky's and protested. They
Mm,
said, "How in the world are you going to have the largest Bucky's outside of Texas?" So
mm,
then they came back about 2 weeks after the complaint. They said, "Hey, we're going to upgrade the one in Luling, which is off of I-10 between here and San Antonio." Um, Now that's the largest, but they say they're building one in Florida. There's probably going to be another protest once that happens. But just to kind of share with people, look at this. That
it's the
is
real
a
deal.
gas station. You can't even see the end,
No,
right?
and this is the funny thing because in New Zealand you feel like you can fit all the gas station in Auckland into Buc-ee's. That's how big. That's how
Hmm.
big the gas station is. Just for everyone in New Zealand to have that perspective.
So they have, I think, in here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's one side. So there's 12. There's another 12. So I think there was about 12 or 15. So you're looking at close to 60 bathroom stalls,
Mm,
close to
mm.
60 urinals. And then in the middle is a bunch of that's where the sinks are. But look at to come in, you just look at the lights and it tells you which bathroom
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
available. So they come up with everything, man.
No, and
Um,
another thing I noticed too, even the size, the one that we went to, because it was still a big one. They still keep it very clean. and nice and tidy. So that was nice, you know.
Yeah, it's they. That's one of their signs is the cleanest bathrooms.
Mm.
Right. That's one thing. Masi, they have some people pushing back on your review of Wendy's.
Okay, that's just me. Yeah, that's me. So that's because it's funny when we go to Wendy's. My wife likes to go to Wendy's because their drink is American size in
Oh
the
yeah.
Wendy's in New Zealand. So she'll go there for the drink, and then I'm more of a beef patty person, but when I go to Wendy's because I find them dry for me, I order a chicken sandwich like a chicken burger. So
I'm
but
with
yeah,
I'm with Renegade, man. I don't know how you had a dry Wendy's burger. That like
I've had it multiple times, and it's just yeah,
okay.
not my thing. Yeah.
I'm with you, Renegade. It hurts. It hurts because I love Wendy's, man. But yeah, I wanted to. I thought this was just kind of cool to talk through real quick before we
Mm,
go to our program here. But this section right here um is the sweets. So they make the pudding, they make the hazelnut stuff. It is all made fresh right there in this area right here. So this is kind of the sweets and everything, the cookie dough, they make all their stuff on site. um
mm.
Here's another. Yeah, it is massive. Like we were saying, like this one right here is 75,000 square foot. As you can see right here, this is like a home goods section in that area right there. T-shirts, like home stuff, decorations. I mean, we have bunch of Bucky's blankets, T-shirts. One of my daughters, her pajama is a Bucky suit. It's a big thing here, and yeah,
It's a
it's
phenomenon
massive.
because yes, it's a phenomenon. You'll get acknowledged from somebody who's a Texan. They will say, "Oh, I like your Bucky shirt" or whatever, because they know it's a big deal. The state of
Hey,
Texas.
hey, Masi, I agree here with Brown Monk, man. Need Betos or something over there in New Zealand.
Yes, Betos. I think that would do really well. I know for all the New Zealanders that are viewing, probably the best kind of taco Mexican place that for takeout is Tocos Tacos. They just started just last month, I believe, in June.
That's
Fish
in New
tacos,
Zealand.
New Zealand, and it's a Tongan family. Lived in Arizona for about
Oh,
15 years. 15 years. They call it Tocos Tacos. My favorite is the fish tacos. They're pretty legit, and some of their
fish
drinks and
tacos are
stuff are
good.
good. So they're starting off tacos, but hopefully, I think the more they do well, and people are starting to get attracted to their food and stuff. Maybe they'll grow their menu and maybe add some burritos and stuff. But yeah, New
Is
Zealand
it
does
drive
need
through? Because Brown Monk is looks like he's looking for a drive through. Brown Monk, the monks don't have
ooh,
time to go in the store. The monks just got to
yeah,
drive through. The drive through, pick up his burrito
no,
and
and
his taco, and go
that
back to the monastery.
yeah, we do need that. Yeah, we do need that. We all know Auckland space for some reason it's gonna cost you a good pretty buck. That's why it's only those big American fast food like the Wendy's, the McDonald's, the Carl's
Oh, just
Juniors.
because real estate's so expensive in New Zealand.
Real estate is so expensive. But yeah, there is a need. Brown Monk, I agree with you.
See, yeah, Malo, Brown Monk. Hey, Toa, Malo, welcome.
Malo
Hey,
taolaba mo toko. Malo,
Malo.
malo.
Oh, yeah,
Si
wish.
si toko lah he kau nusi lang na mamata mai tau
Yeah,
programa tua.
yeah, Malo. Now everybody's going to know that Mussie's review of Wendy's in New Zealand is going to report you. They should do a house meat taco, call it Toco Loco. Shit, Water
Hey,
Bears. I
hey,
think I
I
think
know.
you should be a comedian, man.
Oh,
That's what Water
oh,
Bears. Your hidden talent, Toco.
hey, I know the owners of the Toko Taco restaurant. I'm gonna let them know to maybe try diversify their menu, have horse meat taco, and let's see if that goes. But Malo Waterbears.
And I know I love Texas. I love it a lot, but I will say Arizona, New Mexico, Mexican food is my preference. I kind of prefer that over the Tex-Mex. Which
Because
a
Texas,
lot of yeah,
no, because I would say Texas is more that barbecue, pulled
yeah,
pork. I think they've kind of put their energy into that. They're the king.
brisket,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. But as for those who are joining, we're going through one of the phenomenons here. um, here in Texas. And I say this is even for people in America who come to Buc-ee's, they're in shock, right? They can't believe that this is a gas station and not just a normal gas station. Semi trucks are not allowed into the parking lot. So this is just normal people driving, and they make this massive. And I'll get through here real quick, just show some of the other pictures. So this is the sweets section, right? They make all the sweets right there for you. The jerky section. So this whole section is just fresh jerky, dried sausages, and they have all kinds of things just right there. And then in even this section right here, that's like burritos. You can get
Where's
burritos, tacos. There's the bakery section there. You can get cookies, all kinds of stuff in there.
where's the section that they sell the sandwiches rib? That's
Oh
one
yeah, right
I
here,
really like
right
here.
here. So this
Oh,
is
it's handmade.
barbecue.
She really
Yep.
yes. Best
So
pulled
this is
pork
the
sandwiches
section right
she's
here.
ever had. Yeah.
Yeah. So pulled pork, brisket, sausage, turkey. They make all those barbecue
Right in front
sandwiches,
of you.
even breakfast sandwiches. I mean, this is all in one store, right? And we're about in the middle. So this is like the middle part of the store.
Mm.
So here's the bakery section, right? Ices. This only had 4. We've been in stores that would have like 10 icy machines. So,
Mm.
I mean, I guess technically there's only 4, but there's 4 in each one. So technically 16 options.
This is one I know for sure as a fact. Or maybe you can argue this, Tua. Is the bakery close to New Zealand bakery,
No,
Tua?
no, no,
New Zealand's top.
no.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah,
New Zealand bakery. That's what I know is pretty darn good here. Uh,
yeah. No, 100%. I agree. We'll catch up. I don't want to get too far behind our comments here. So we'll just pause there. Let's get more Mexicans here before we get a Mexican spot. Hey, I don't know, man. So far, New Zealand has a fantastic. New Zealand's food is pretty dang good. I was in Scotland, and the Scottish, they claim the meat pie comes from them. I tried to get a good meat pie in Scotland. No
uh,
bueno, man. It's not the same level as New Zealand.
no, I was just laughing because Renegade say we need more Mexican because I know New Zealand's attracted to the Indians because Auckland, Auckland has the most Indians I've ever seen in my life,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's so
way.
funny. It's so funny to because I'm not used to being around Indians and they have a certain accent, eh? So
Mm,
sometimes when I go and order and stuff, I don't understand it. And my wife Sarah, she's used to the
she
Indian accent.
understands it. Yeah,
She understands, but I told her, man, I'm more used to the Filipino, Chinese, Japanese accent, but Indian,
Micronesian
no
accent.
bueno, no good, no good. So yeah, we need more Mexican, eh?
Hey, Alexander Vanicolo, welcome, welcome. And Brown Monk here, Toko in the States, they say we're the big dude. That's people always think I'm a Miko too. And there's like, man, you gotta be one of the biggest Mexicans I've seen. I was like, yeah, keep looking. You're not gonna find one yet because I'm Polynesian. Um, that looks like our Sylvia Park. Malo, bro. What's Sylvia Park, Masi?
It's one of their biggest malls here in New Zealand. Yeah, it's in
Oh,
Mount Wellington area. Yeah, God loves you. Yeah, that's what he refers to.
okay. No, I mean this place is massive. I
Mm.
mean, it's huge. Like I said, when I was in Europe, I couldn't wait to come back. And honestly, after I've gone to Europe and I see New Zealand, if I want to go to Europe, I think New Zealand is a better option than going to
Way
Europe.
better.
Europe
Way better.
was not my thing, man. Not my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Alexander, typically anywhere between an hour and a half and 3 hours. So make your bucket,
Mm.
and I we'll stick around to get you through your bucket. Toko.
Yeah. Malo Alexander.
Hello, malo mereka. Appreciate it.
Malo Mereka.
100%, as Brown Monk says. Let's start this is the pre palu. We're gonna get
Mm.
into the meat of the palu here in a second. We're just giving an update. We just went to the largest gas station in the world, 75,000 square feet. Just thought that would be kind of interesting to cover real quick because it came up in the conversation. This is the snacks section. So this is, and it even goes a little bit more to the right, but here's the wine section. They even have a wine
Mm.
section um, of the gas station. Oh, so so that's the wine section and the snack section. This is the home goods portion. So right, you
Okay.
can come here, you buy pots, pan. I mean, dude, it's crazy. And you
Souvenirs and
souvenirs,
stuff,
all
man.
kinds of stuff. Have you ever been to a gas station? They give you shopping carts when you go through the gas station.
No, no, because it's never big enough. You can't. It's more a
Uh,
grab and go.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then you have little barbecue. These are floaties. So that's the tail end of the trip. But yeah, as and once again, this is my daughter Sita. It was her
What
birthday today,
Whataburger?
and she's a true Texan, born in so Hurst, Bedford, Texas, close to Dallas area. And
Mm.
homegirl said, "I want for dinner, I want me some Whataburger." So, anyways, just thought that was kind of interesting conversation there. But let us jump to what we're going to talk about today. Um,
Get it?
hey, Mussy, looks like you thought I said he'd love to catch up sometime.
Okay, we'll do.
100%.
We'll do. Malo toa.
Hey,
I'm in South Auckland.
South Auckland, Manurewa, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah. Mm.
And Kurt, Mahalo Taulava, welcome to the digital Kava session here. Brown Monk, Omaike Puke Fun 100%. If you make funny comments like Water Bears, sometimes we give you a whole kumete. We'll
Don't
give
talk
you
too
a
much
whole
about that
kumete.
Toa before his visa gets revoked. He said he was going. He has to be a little. He's trending careful.
Yes, that's the one like we were mentioning earlier to Water Bears. He came back and said his wife got hold of some of his comments on the digital Kava session, and his visa almost got revoked. So yeah, Masi, thought I said that when you have a chance, just shoot him a note.
Okay, we'll do.
You looks like Alexander here is getting started with the mix. But with that being said, we're gonna continue. We let's kind of frame our discussion today a little bit. A lot of times, um, when we have the discussions that we have, we're encouraging people to discuss, and we're speaking primarily about ancient Polynesian history. We understand that our history primarily was oral. That's great. That has pros and cons, just like every other concept. But there's also a really important part of the history and understanding. Everybody has as this forum, as the Kava sessions that we've had here. We need to figure out what the truth is, and this is what we mean by it. We're now getting stories that Tahiti, Tangaloa is from Tahiti, Maui is from Tahiti, Fiji, Tangaloa and Maui are from there. We're now hearing that Tangaloa and Maui are from Samoa,
Mm.
all based off of oral history, which adds certain value, and we recognize that. But at some point, we have to say, is there more than just oral history? And we're not negating the value of oral history.
Mm.
So we're gonna frame some of the discussions. I was mentioning to Masi earlier, um, what you call as part of being able to stream on X, we have to be on the premium version of it, so we get access to Grok, which is
AI is here, folks. AI is here, and it's here to
AI is
stay.
here. And so we were messing around with it, just asking certain questions of it, and we decided, you know what, Grok is an outsider. We'll ask him some questions and see what he thinks. So with that being said, we're going to start our discussion with a few things that Grok has to say. And the first thing that we asked Grok was
Mm.
just to search online, right, on the different data sets and say, which one do you think was an actual empire that existed between the Tu'imanua and the Tu'itonga. And
Mhm.
Brock said, based on the information provided, it appears that the Tu'itonga Empire has more evidence of existence as a true empire compared to Tu'imanua. The sources mention that the Tu'itonga Empire was an oceanic maritime chiefdom centered on the island of Tongatapu, which flourished between 1200 and 1500, right? AD. It arose. I don't like the Common Era stuff. I'm going to stick to AD.
Mm.
It arose when Samoa's Tu'imanua Empire declined around 950 CE. The empire was at its height under the 10th leader Momo and his son Tu'itatui in the 11th and 12th century. The sources also mention the Tu'itonga Empire map, which illustrates the islands under the Tongan sphere and how the canoes and navies were paramount in expansion.
I can get this one too. Huh?
Yeah,
So on the other hand, the sources do not provide as much information about the Tuimanua Empire. There is mention of Tuimanua being the highest ranking title and office of all of Samoa, Tonga, and various other islands prior to and during the rise of the great familial titles of Subai Polu and Tongatapu. However, there is no detailed information about the extent of the Tuimanua Empire or its influence. Therefore, based on the evidence provided, it seems that the Tuitonga Empire is more likely a true empire with more evidence of existence compared to the Tui Manua. So that's AI version.
yeah. And granted, even here, the AI is saying, it rose out of the Tu'imanua, but then also says, but there's really not too much evidence of the existence of one. Let's go through. It looks like there's some comments here from Brown Monk. There's a detailed Manua list. I have it, but it's now not how most know. Hey, we're open to looking at that. I mean, that's one area we're open to look at all oral histories, and we're gonna dive into some of the concepts that people explain. Like what we do is we hear the oral history, we
Hmm.
think about it, says what makes sense, and then we say, are there archaeological, right, and
Yes.
or evidence that we could find possibly, and that's how you marry oral history to a physical location. That becomes more believable, right? That doesn't mean it's 100,000% bulletproof, but it at least becomes more believable. um and so, yeah, any thoughts on that? That's just kind of my response on that, Masi.
No, no. We would love the list of the Tui Manua because I think on our previous videos, Tua, we did compare and how it was like 14 short compared from the latest, Tui Tonga list to the Manua list. So yes, and then once we can get a list that we believe that is the most correct from the Tuimanua list, and then we'll go start talking about the archaeological findings and behind those title holders. But yeah, definitely interested in the Tuimanua list.
Yeah, share whatever you got with you, Brown Monk, and we can include that. Or if you have a link that you can put in the chat, we can pull it up if you have it online. But if not online, you want to put it on a document, share with us, we can definitely bring that up and have some discussions on it. The next one, any other thoughts, Mussy, just in general on those?
Yeah, no, I mean, like what AI's mentioned, there's a mention that it could have been it's only mentioned in because of course AI is getting all the findings and stuff through the
From
internet regarding
online? Yeah,
online stuff, and it's compiling it and summarizing it into a smaller note that we can take from it. I'm just thinking, yeah, it's pretty much correct. AI is just saying that there was really no existence of Tui Manua compared to the Tui Tonga. Seems like the Tui Tonga seems to be the only existence of an empire in Polynesia. But
yeah.
yeah,
And then that just, I think what Grok is kind of analyzing there is more data points, right? and
yes,
and we're going to look into it. Because I asked Grok, what are one of the main um studies that you use to kind of base the understanding, and he shared one that we had mentioned in the past that I remember seeing years ago, and he mentioned one of those. So we're gonna pull up one of
Mm,
those studies and walk through it. Um, Real quick, fair question, AJ. In Tongan, Samoa is Ha'amoa,
mm,
and that's how Tongans have always referred to it, because from our perspective, it's the Moa family or the Moa clan
mm,
that left Tonga and went to Samoa. That's our perspective. I think that's important because some people go into this very complex definition of Samoa, using Samoa, saying Sa and the Moa, meaning different things. But
mm.
from the Tongan perspective, is we've never referenced Samoa as Samoa. It's always been Hamoa.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the correct definition of what Hatmo was referred to back in the days, because Samoa was a relatively modern term that was only given to a nation once European colonization occurred.
Oh,
From what I
really?
understand, Samoa from because they were kind of separate. Because Tuimanua was, you're right, Tuimanua was more of a uh kind of different from Samoa in the sense of being like, because I do agree that maybe Tui Manua could have been the highest title in all of Samoa, but maybe its influence shrunk to just to the Manua, and then the Manua flag also recognizes, which is if we do perceive that they are the oldest, they do have in their flag a representation of a chicken or a
Yeah.
moa. That's, I think that plays dividends to what their ancient history of them being referred to as the Moa clan kind of things. But that's just me. I mean, I'm just giving my thoughts there, just trying to make it logically make sense. So if we do perceive that Tumanua in the Samoa Islands, where if they are the oldest, I'm not surprised that they do have a Moa to represent that.
Hey,
So
Nacho, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining.
mm.
Just tell us the
Oh, not
truth.
so.
You're like Water Bears had to negotiate the visa with the wife before you could join the Kava session tonight, but it's all good. Malo, malo, Nacho. Here's another one. What are your thoughts on this, Masi? Where did the Tu'i Manua title come from? Why use Tu'i? Any thoughts on
Well,
that?
that's a good question. Dewey, because the modern terms of why the Samoan language for any authority or like leadership or kingship kind of thing is tupu. Like that's their modern word for it. Dewey sounds like a more source from Tongatapu with the Tui Tonga. With the Dewey is more what how it is used today, and like I said, it could be a word that came from the Tui Tonga. And because what I share is that the Tui Manua is, it could be because based on the evidence we have right now, we're still kind of waiting if there is another list of Tui Manua title holders. But as we compare right now, that's available to us, it's like 14 list short compared to the going up to Aho Eitu, and it could be Tui Manua could derive from the Tui Tonga line, and that's where they get that name Tui as a title holder. So that's a good question, but I could be the Tui Manua could be a title that was given over there to the Manua Islands Tui from the Tui Tonga. But that's just me just trying to make it logically make sense. But I don't
Okay.
know. What do you think, Dor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to add here some of the feedback that we've seen in some of our comments on social media. Our Fijian brothers are trying to lay claim that the term Tui comes from Fiji. Um, I'm not sure how or why they make that claim. Really hard, right? That's the one of the challenges of just going with a
Oral.
oral kind of approach. Is it's really hard to lay claim on that, right? They say it comes from there. We say, well, the majority of kings and empire type structures, from my perspective, are from Tonga. The term Tui seems to be tied more to um, king rather than chief, and
Mm,
so I'm not aware of a quote unquote king of Fiji. right? So it was more like chiefly titles rather than kings.
Correct.
So I
Region.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I lean a little bit more that that's probably a Tongan word.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so that's where I kind of lean right now.
Okay.
Another couple comment. I believe the first Tui Manua was Tongan because King in Tongan is Tui and Samoan. Oh, that's kind of going
That's
along
what
with
I said.
what you were mentioning earlier.
Mm.
Masi is aligned with you on that, AJ. And honestly, I was mentioning this on one of our other podcasts, our live sessions. I Before we started the podcast and started having conversation, I was leaning towards Tui Manua coming from Tangaloa, right? Like one of Tangaloa's sons,
Correct.
right? One of
Correct.
Tangaloa's sons
The
gets
early beginnings, in the early
yes.
beginnings of kind of Polynesia. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was open to I was thinking, hey, you know what? That could be an explanation for it. Um, because that a lot of what I hear is they come straight from Tangaloa, and we know just like the Tuitonga, Tangaloa as a chief, one of the benefits, I guess, of being the king, you have a lot of posterity. You have
Mm.
posterity all over the place. But as we dig in, excuse me, as we dig into it more and more, I am slowly turning the corner to think there's a high probability that Tuimanua came
Tuitonga.
during the time of Tuitonga and maybe a descendant of the Tuitonga. I don't know. That's kind of where I am right now.
Mm. Mm. No, I do. I do definitely believe that Tui Manua is a high title because there was a reason why during the Tuitonga era they kind of left them alone. It was more going between the islands of Upolu, Savai, and Tutuila. But yes, but now that we're more uncovering this, I'm starting to fall in line that it's more likely uh either a child or somebody of a relative to a Tuitonga. I just don't know which one, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's I'm in there as well. Alexander had a comment. Anything on Hamoa Beach in Maui and Kona on Big Island, Tongan influence? Any thoughts there, Masi?
Kona, yes, there is a lot of influence of Tongan in Kona. I believe one of the the females that came and married, I think Momo in Tonga, who's a Tuitonga, came from Kona, from the Big Island. Her name was Nua. They produced the Tuitonga Tuitatui, which is pretty common now. So yes, there is. I think there is some strong connection there, and I find it very funny too that that's where Kamehameha came from, and
Mm.
Kamehameha had the strategy and the fortitude to unite all of Hawaii under one union of like a modern king, and I feel like that's interesting with that close tie and family ties. Maybe because I feel like having that knowledge only came from one place, Tongatapu, where it's common to have one ruler to unify all of Polynesia. But this is coming from Kona to unify all of Hawaii. He gotta get it from somewhere, or he surrounded himself with some family members that had that knowledge. I'm not too familiar with the Hamua Beach in Maui, but yeah, that's
Wouldn't be
just my
surprised, right?
yeah,
Wouldn't be surprised.
yeah.
And that's one of the other things that coming to the comment we had at the beginning of the podcast. There is not a rich, unless I mean I'm not a Hawaiian Islands historian by any chance, but there is not a rich history of a unified quote unquote Hawaiian Islands. Like
Mm,
Kamehameha the Great is called Kamehameha the Great because he seems to be the first one to unify the islands under a single rule, under a single government.
mm,
And our position so far is well, that's because the Polynesian Empire, headquartered on Tongatapu, that was the governing body. That was the governing leader, was the Tuitonga. So there was no, we need to unite the Hawaiian Islands because you're already united under the
correct.
Polynesian Empire.
And that unification by Kamehameha the Great was happening during what? When the empire is literally crumbling,
Yeah.
only existing to what Tonga it is today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One other comment before we come back is I heard there's a village in Hawaii called Tongatapu. I'm not aware of that. Are you aware of anywhere
Sorry,
on?
AJ. No, not that I know of. Not that I know
Yeah,
of.
neither am I.
Unless there's a modern name now that used to be kind of like Bora Bora, but it's kind of original name back in the days in ancient Polynesia was Vavau. So I don't know if it's something like that that I don't know of, AJ.
Mm. Very possible, right? Because
Mm,
if I remember correctly, basically the Hawaiian language was it was basically destroyed. It was dead. No one was really speaking it. It had to be resurrected from the
yeah.
ashes, if I remember correctly. So
Mm,
okay, sweet, yeah, and because you know what, Kona and Kamehameha from the William Mariner book that we looked at, the
yeah.
Hawaiian from those islands said it was Tona, right? And
Yeah.
it probably was Tonga
Mm,
for Kona, but the English people don't really hear the ng sound as
yeah.
much. And then Kamehameha, the Hawaiian who visited Hawaii, they didn't call him Kamehameha. They called him
Kamehameha.
Kamehameha. So with a T. So just
Mm,
some interesting things to kind of keep in mind right there.
that is.
Another. Well, we'll go to the next Grok. We just had two Grok questions, and then we'll go into the study and that Grok gave us in reference as to why Grok believed that between the Tuitonga and the Tuimanua, he kind of took the position of the Tuitonga seems to be more likely to be an actual empire than the Tuimanua. And I say that we're not saying that Tuimanua did not exist. And I have to say this because someone's going to say, what do you mean that Tuimanua doesn't exist? No, we know the title exists. What we're asking and questioning is, was it really the center and the foundation of an empire?
Mm,
Right? So that's the question we're saying. Don't want people to misunderstand that. So we also got a lot of pushback on one of the comments that was made on the podcast. People
mm.
saying, how dare you say that Tonga is the oldest self-governing active civilization in the world? People kept bringing up Japan. World War II, Japan submitted to
Kenya.
the UN. Bring up Kenya, they bring up Ethiopia. They brought up all kinds of stuff, right?
Mm.
And there were pieces of time where these people fell. So that's one of the questions we asked Grok, right? What is the oldest self-governing country and civilization that has maintained the same governing family or structure without losing independence? You
All
want to
right.
read
Yep.
Mr. Grok's response, Mussy?
So this is what Gronk responds with.
Not to be
Based.
confused with Gronk from the
Oh,
Patriots. This is Grok, right?
Gronk the AI. Yeah. This is the AI everyone is talking about. So it's pretty cool that AI is here in the 21st century to assist us. So it goes based on the information provided, it appears that the oldest self-governing country with the same governing family or structure without losing independence is the Kingdom of Tonga. The sources mention that the Kingdom of Tonga is the only indigenous monarchy left in the Pacific, and it has been ruled by the same family since 1845. The current king, Tupo VI, is the sixth king in the line of succession from the first king of modern Tonga, George Tupo I. The sources also mention that Tonga was never colonized and has maintained its independence throughout history. Therefore, based on the evidence provided, it seems that the Kingdom of Tonga is the oldest self governing country with the same governing family or structure without losing independence. So I think this answers all the questions because I know there's been comments on the social media also mentioning, but Tonga was a protectorate and Tonga was colonized, through the protectorate. It's like, no, protectorate was a treaty agreed from one party to another, and Tonga was able to still govern itself while British agreed to take care of its foreign affairs. But uh, but yeah, I think this is pretty much like what Gronk is mentioning, just based on what is the data points that is pointing to. Tonga is the oldest active civilization
Yeah,
to this day,
yeah.
without without being colonized. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I would add, and I don't know if Grok is taking it even further because if it only takes 1845, with active, I think where he's saying with the active
Correct.
clause in there, he's saying 1845. But we take the position that, Tupo the first, a cousin of Laufiri Tonga, that's the same family, right?
Yeah.
So it goes back to the Tuitonga, and then it goes back to Tangaloa. We're talking BC, possibly thousands of years BC, possibly.
No, and this is the part that we can still manage to live with AI because AI got most of it. But like what you said, the details, I think this is where humans can fill in the gap to help AI. Was like, yes, Tuitong, right? Tangaloa pass on to the same family to the Tuitonga. Tuitonga's brother becomes the Tuihatagalawa. The Tuihatagalawa has a son, which becomes the Tuikangpolu, which is the current line now. So they're
Yes.
all the same related family. So we can even push that 1845 to when Tangaloa or the first Tuitonga, how A2 became the first Tuitonga. So yeah, we can push that very further.
So here's some feedback from the brothers. Look, AJ is clapping his hand, drinking the giant cup, and he's saying, "No, Masi, your king now is not the rightful king." I'll take a stab at this first,
Go
right?
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So I can understand why some people have that position, right? Because the Tuitonga, quote unquote, is the rightful heir. However, there are two things that I would say. First, there was a transition of authority from Tangaloa to the Tuitonga. If we're going to say that Tupo's family right now is not the rightful heir, then we would have to, even based off of oral history, the Tuitonga is not the quote unquote rightful heir because the Tangaloa clan was there, and you could say one of Aho Etu's brothers,
Mm,
right? Could have
which were
been the
all yeah.
quote unquote the rightful heir. However, as certain wise kings do, they say, yes, I have older sons, but for the future, I say this son is going to become the heir. We've seen it in the scriptures many times, we've seen it in traditional history.
Mm,
One of the things that we suggest or promote, and Masi can share if he disagrees, but I think he agrees, the same transition that happened with Tangaloa to the Tuitonga, for whatever reason, it seems like there was something happened, right? And that's what the story of Aho Etu is. Whether there was a shift, I don't know. Was there another type of uprising, some kind of issue? Was there another foreign power threatening the Polynesian Empire? I don't know. But something happened that the Tangaloa title holder said, we need to change the way we're structured, right? We need to adapt our government, how we execute or whatever. That's why the Tuitonga title is installed. A new type of council or parliament.
mm,
They like to call it a parliament. Some type of legislative body of the Falefa is created. A new governmental system that may have been different than the actual structure of the Tangaloa government system becomes the Tuitonga. We see that same pattern with the Tuitonga and the current king today, the Tupo family. And we expressed that on some of our other
mm.
podcasts, AJ. The Tuitonga could have easily ruined Tupo the first. And what we're saying ruin is we're not saying he has to win the battle. All he has to do is cause chaos. England's going to come in, colonize, or someone else. But
And
yeah,
really colonize. Yeah.
and really colonize and take over. It seems like Laufiri Tonga, just like Tangaloa Etumatupua said, hey, look, the times have changed. We need to adapt. And just like he chose one of his sons, it's still the same family, still the same blood in many senses. It seems like Laufiri Tonga looked at Tupo the first. They both grew up in Mua,
Mua.
right? A lot of people try to say, oh, he's a Tuihapai. He's a, yes, but his mother was from Mua. It was the Taula, the Tuitonga's priest that saved his life, and they raised him in Mua, and they knew each other basically they're cousins, they're family. And so when Laufiri Tonga looks at Tupo the first, he's saying, you know what? And I'm putting in some narrative, my own narrative is it's better that my cousin who's done a great job in gathering political and military power, and he seems to have a vision of
mm,
adapting our people to this new world, this new way of thinking, and this new power that's coming in. He says, I am going to, just like Tangaloa did for Aoetu,
mm,
provide a Kava ceremony, like the Kava bowl,
mm.
installed Aoetu as the Tuitonga. We're saying that the Tuitonga Laufiritonga seems to have done the same thing by providing a Taumafa Kava
Yeah.
for Tupo the first, and in a sense, legitimizing Tupo the first as an heir. That's just my response to AJ's comment. Any thoughts on that, Mussy?
No, if AJ can just break it down exactly what's not the rightful king, but yeah, no, just to add on to your answer to no, and this is why we're saying, and this is why we mentioned that Tonga, the leaders of Atui Tonga, you can only have this vision of like, instead of causing chaos, right? And then having the foreigners, because a lot of the foreigners really took over all of Polynesia. A lot of them was not through militarily. A lot of it was just because a lot of the people just, there was no structure. The
Yeah,
Falangis came, created a government or a structure, and just ran things from there, and everyone just fell in
civilize
line.
them, right?
Yeah,
They saw it
fell in.
as like being kind. We're going to civilize you.
Yes. So for Laufiri Tonga to even see that vision and recognizing that Taufahau had this gift, we can say it's a gift because even Taufahau getting to be a Tuikang Polu was pretty much a miracle with
Yes.
how that happened. So that's why Laufiri Tonga saying this and allowing that to happen, to me that's really a love for the nation, because you must have the vision. And during this time, and this is like in the 1800s, many of Polynesia was being colonized, a lot of it because they just didn't know or didn't have that knowledge. But Laufri Tonga, through his ancestors and having all of this information of how to be a leader. Another example was it Tui Tonga Pau, I believe, that asked Captain Cook,
Yeah.
what was he
What are you
doing
doing
here?
here?
Captain Cook didn't even know how to respond because he never had that kind of question when he went through Hawaii and the other islands, in the Pacific, New Zealand and stuff. So that's another reason why you love these leaders. You don't. It just didn't happen out of nowhere. This is all of these things happen because you had the skills and knowledge of how to be a leader or an empire. So yeah, that's pretty much my answer to that. It was more of an addition to your answer, but if AJ can break it down exactly why if it's the current king now, or is it because of the whole
Yeah.
transition or something, but
He does provide a
some
follow
clarity.
up, some
Mm.
clarity, and we can clear this up for you, AJ. I'm just sending a comment with the email to Brown Monk so
Okay,
that he
nice,
can
nice.
email a link. He has a link here. Um, he and you can post post the link here in the chat, Brown Monk, and I can try and copy and paste it or email the link to that email address, and I can pull it up from there.
Nice.
So AJ says no. The king now comes from the Tuiha Takalawa lineage, Masi. And I understand why he's saying that. You want to kind
Mm.
of cover some of that ground and
Yes,
give AJ the context. We don't
yes.
disagree with that,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
AJ, but we're going to give some clarity for that. Go ahead, Masi.
Yes. No, and this is the reason why they changed the name. It's like a Tongan etiquette thing because they know the Tui Hatagalawa where it stands. And part of the Tongan tradition, there was a reason why it was taken away when Tupo the first was installed. And I think I don't know if it was a generation Tua or a two generation before they reinstituted to the same family, but they changed the name. And that's why they changed the name from Tui Hatagalawa to Tungi, which is Tungi is still being passed. And it's still recognized, The Kalanivalu, which is the
Hmm.
Tuitonga lineage. The same thing, changed the name to Kalanivalu, but they're still the same family, but just for, you know, Tongan etiquette kind of thing. When you do your kava ceremony, it's you change the name and the Tuikanupolu, which is in charge, and which, like what you mentioned to when you have the Tuitonga allowing the transition and installing the Taumafakava, because the Tuitonga was known more for the, I think Dad mentioned was the Furitaunga was their thing, changing it and teaching the Tuikanupolu because they were just only Ilo Kava to the
Hmm.
Taumafakava. That legitimize that legitimize that legitimized the Tuikanupolu as being like the modern king of all of Tonga, and that's why they still take the name of the Tuikanupolu with the Tupou name as the leader. So that's my explanation for that. Tua, unless I'm missing something or you have a
Yes.
different perspective.
Yeah, the different, I think, to answer, and it's good you gave that perspective, and I'm going to build on that just in case AJ's question is, I was thinking he may be asking because tungi mairefihi, right? That tungi
Hmm.
is the tui is the hatakalaua, like you're mentioning, that tungi is the descendant from the hatakalaua, but
Yes.
Queen Salote was the carrier of the Tuikanukupolu line. She had some
Mm,
Tuitonga blood as well, because they're all at the end of the day, they're all family. All these
mm,
all these people are from the Tuitonga. But the inheriting of power, political and military power, did not come from Tungi. Though Tungi brings in the Hatakalaua
legitimacy. Yes.
blood into Tupou the Fourth. That's why it was kind of a big deal that Queen Salote married Tungi Mairefihi, because it brought two main
Yes.
kingly lines together. And then obviously, it looks like, just real quick before we come back, Renegade does mention here, and we agree, even the Tu'i Hatakalaua is from the Tu'itonga. So yeah, in a sense, it's still the same family. But it was the Tu'ikanukupolu was the line that Tupou the First used to claim power and
Mm,
establish the kingly line, which is kind of funny. Masi kind of referenced it that, a couple of times. He used the Samoan voting system because that's how the Tu'ikanukupolu was selected.
it was a
Tupou the
voting.
First miraculously gets elected, right? He sends Ma'afu to Fiji. He sends Ma'afu's brother to Samoa, while he kind of positions. Once he gets voted in and gets power, then he no longer follows the voting system. He goes back to the Tu'i Hatakalaua and the Tu'i
Tonga
Tonga
way.
system of father to son, father to son. Obviously, that changes with Queen Salote. And
Yeah.
that is just another way of adapting to the changing times to maintain power, because England was closing in on colonization, and Tonga had to do an emergency in the middle of the night installation of Queen Salote, just to say we still have a leader.
Mm,
Don't take over us. We're still organized.
yeah.
Um,
No, no, and just to add on to that, yeah, and Tungi, Mailefi, he could have pulled another one. The Tungi family could have pulled another one. Just say, just don't do anything and let things just crumble, and then we would have
yeah,
been colonized maybe even before or during the time of Queen Salote being having no marriage and prosperity. So,
and dude, that's a very interesting point you're making there, Masi, and I've never thought of
uh,
it,
uh,
because the Tu'ikanukupolu, once again, is in a very vulnerable position. You're
mm,
gonna say it because Queen Salote inheriting it goes against all tradition.
correct,
The
correct.
the tried and true. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. The Tui Hatakalaua and the Tui Tonga, who are now Tungi and Kalanivalu, if they were going to be opportunists, like we see
Yes,
in Europe, this happens in Europe all the
yeah,
time, right? Somebody
yeah,
gets installed as king or queen, they get killed, they get challenged, they get removed for whatever reason. But I've never thought of that. That's
yeah,
actually another miraculous point. Is Tungi Mairefi, he could have said, "No, I'm not going to marry you and legitimize your
yes,
line. I'm going to challenge." Very
yes,
interesting, and that's obviously the advisors to Queen Salote. they were probably trying to leverage the Tuiha Takalaua's power and influence to strengthen Queen Salote's position. And I never
Yes.
thought about that before.
Yes. No, and even when Queen Charlotte was in the marriage, a lot of her upbringing and teaching of the way of kingship, she had to go to Mu'a from the
Yeah,
stories I would hear, and kind of the Mu'a elders or the custom holders of Mu'a would kind of raise her because she was really young. She was really young when she was bestowed queen of Tonga. So yeah.
hey, another regular. Welcome, welcome to
Hey,
the
Clyde
Kava
Moore,
session,
Malo.
Clyde Moore. Malo. Here's a couple other. Yeah, hey, Brown Monk, no problem, man. Send that over. Let me check my emails. And if
Nice.
not today, we may bring up that, have some discussion on that. And you know what? Even better, Brown Monk, maybe if you're up to it, man, join us on one of these live sessions and we can walk through the list with you, have some
Mm.
discussion on it. So appreciate you sending that over. I don't know the answer to this question, Masi. Do you know the answer behind that?
What is the meaning of Tagalawa? It could be a clan of some Tagalawa after a name. See, and that's the thing. Isn't there a Tagalawa Tuitonga Tua? From I was looking at Dad's list, and
Yes.
I don't know if it was before the creation of the Tui Tagalawa or after,
Let me
but
let
I
let
know
me,
there's a Tagalawa Tuitonga Tagalawa, and I just
yes. And this is something that actually I've been thinking about. Let me see if I can find,
mm,
I may still have the Tuitonga
yeah.
list, but
But yeah,
uh,
Shionetangi, that's what I'm thinking that the Tagalawa could come from. It could be a naming of a previous Tuitonga that was Tagalawa, but I just don't know the timeline on that. I could be wrong. But just taking it like Ha'amoa.
that's
Uh,
what I was thinking. Came to my mind,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Then this is more of a question for hopefully, well, looks like Starlink is back. We can have our older brother who's in Tonga, who's kind of really well versed in Tongan history and how
Family
what
history,
happened
Tongan
in
history.
family
That
history,
guy,
and
yeah,
even use of old Tongan words. He's really good at. He's probably after David Tafale, he's probably the next person to go to. He can probably provide a better clarity. But that's what I'm thinking, Tua, regarding that. But if you had the timeline, maybe we
I'm gonna
could.
pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Yeah.
Um, because I want to see the relation there. Because an interesting thing is, like you were mentioning about, the Ha'amoa and the Ha'atakalaua,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be a similitude right there, right?
Mm,
That the Tuitonga has the Tui Manua sent to Samoa as a representative or something of that sort. Let's see. So it's
isn't there a Tagalawa? Okay, so it must be after that.
so this right here.
Number
This is when
38.
the yeah.
Mm,
Oh, there. That's where. Okay, we don't. I don't know the meaning of takalaua, but this is Kaulufonua Fekai. This is the guy. His father is assassinated.
correct.
Takalaua is
Correct.
assassinated. This is the story where Kaulfonua. That's where he gets the name Fekai. Right. He
Yes.
chases the assassins, hundreds of miles navigating, finally catches them in Wallace and Futuna or somewhere over there. Uno
Uh,
Uvea,
Uvea.
somewhere. I can't
Uvea.
remember which island. Catches them, brings them back. He actually like drinks their blood and stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
knocks
Eats
out
them
all their
all up, I think.
teeth.
Yeah.
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 So apparently catches them, knocks out all of their teeth, has them chew the kava as it's bleeding, and then drinks it.
Shit.
So what we're getting to here is with Kaulfo no Fekai, what he does is after he kills the assassins and he becomes the Tuitonga, he installs his brother as the Tu'iha Takalaua, which is
Correct.
obviously in reference to his father's name.
So that's where the Tagalawa come from. Yeah.
That's
So
where the
yeah,
Takalawa comes
I was
from.
right. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And
No, thanks
so,
for that. Thanks for
yeah.
that clarity too with the story. That's pretty cool. I forgot about that that oral history on that.
And this is honestly the more we look at and we have these conversations online in these digital kava sessions, this is the beginning of the unmaking of the tuitonga from my perspective. Because traditionally the tuitonga handled the inasi and the polo polo and the administration of the government.
Mm,
It's the undoing of the tuitonga, but it's the saving of the civilization at the same time. Because once Kaulfo Nuafekai splits the responsibility, he says, you know, the first Tuiha Takalawa, you're going to take care of all the administrative part. I'm only going to take care of the polo polo and the religious
yes, aspect.
part.
Yeah.
That eventually leads to the Tuikanukupolu line, multiple kingly lines, which eventually, in this moment, it's the Tuitonga gets replaced through the Tuikanukupolu, but that saves the independence of the people. So it's an interesting thing that's when we look at the Tuiha Takalawa, that is the beginning of that discussion
That.
right there.
So that's where it comes from. Yeah. There we go. Siane.
So we're gonna come back here. We'll try and catch up on all the comments. Our comments are filling up here, Masi. So
Okay. Okay.
we'll catch up from those. Yeah, as mentioned here, clan of Takalawa, who was the Tuitonga, but his son created the Tuiha Takalawa. Yes, correct. That's what we just confirmed there.
Guardian
Renegade.
Renegade.
What is the importance of the king taking the European king's names? That was just kind of like a religious thing. Not a
Bringing the new
religious, like a
religious.
yes. It's just kind of recognizing,
This is
I'm
where
the
the Christianity came from. Kind of. It's more of
correct.
like it's part of it's like I said. It's part of the humility of what still exists in Tonga today. Usually name your child after somebody that's done something. It's just part of the tradition kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna try and just skip through the different comments to kind of see the ones that are related because I know there's a delay right in
Mm,
the live.
mm, mm,
Yes, the Tui Tonga Takalawa was assassinated and killed. His son created the Tui Takalawa. Correct.
correct.
El Lobo, welcome, welcome,
Malo, malo.
or should I say, bienvenido, the wolf. Welcome. Let's see. Right here, Brown Monk, Tatuy Hatakalawa ran concurrent with Tatuy Tonga beginning with, yes, Kaulfo Nuafekai, his brother Mongamoto. Yep, 100% agreed there. Yes, the last Mele, yep, the Mulihamea, that's the Tatuy Hatakalawa. That was the last
Mm,
Tatuy Hatakalawa. Once he was killed in a war, and then his title was not replaced.
yeah.
Um, Let's see here. Here's another quick question. And then after we go through that, we'll get into the article maybe.
Mm.
Um, oh, no, that's not it. Any star mounds in Tonga? I'm not aware of any, Masi. I mean, we had pigeon mounds, and I just read an
Yes.
article today that is their best guess so far is that the star mounds were used for like a competitive pigeon competition.
Snaring, yeah. I think there were star mounts in Tonga, but it could be like I said, it was the purpose was to catch large pigeons because apparently back in those days in Tonga the pigeons were huge, huge and huge birds. But yeah, star mounts could be more of a pigeon, just like the star mounts that are currently in Upolu and Sabai.
Yeah. Sia Heulupe Nacho. Agreed. That's what we're thinking it is. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now that we've talked about our AI buddy Grok, we're gonna
Hmm.
go through and we're gonna discuss one of um, the studies that Grok shared with us, saying this is one of the primary reasons why he believes. Well, Let me see here. How come I don't see our? There we go. I have to open it. We're gonna look at one of
It's
the
the
studies.
article.
Yes, one of the studies that Grok highlights as to how and why he came to the conclusion that the Tuitonga
It's more
empire
likely an
is
empire.
more
Yeah,
likely to be an actual empire and existed as an actual empire than
the Tuimanua.
the Tuimanua. I want to see if I can zoom in just a little bit more.
There we go.
So this is a study. I don't know if it shows the date. 2014. Well, that's when the study was approved for this journal.
Mm,
So it could have been done, let's say 2010 to 2014. It's
hmm.
done by a kind of like a coalition
Yeah.
of universities and
Australia,
so forth. And
State University
yeah,
of Arizona. Yeah.
yeah. And we're just gonna walk through obviously some of the main highlights, and we're gonna focus on a couple of the graphs.
Hmm.
So as we're going through it, guys and gals, if you guys have any questions, shoot it up in the chat. We'll bring it up as we go through. I'll just read a couple sentences here, and then Masi, let me know if
Okay.
there's anything you want to discuss or you want to continue reading for us.
Okay.
But it says Tonga was unique in the prehistoric Pacific for developing a maritime state that integrated the archipelago under a centralized authority and for undertaking long distance economic and political exchanges in the second millennium AD. Now, I really want to highlight how, this is a lot packed into that first sentence. This is the reason why when we have conversations about the Tu'imanua and the Tu'ipulotu quote unquote empires, we can't find a lot of economic or political influence or structure like this is saying. This is why it's saying that Tonga is unique in the sense we can with relative confidence point to economic and political exchanges throughout Polynesia.
Mm.
I haven't seen anything of substance for the Tu'imanua and the Tu'ipulotu.
Tupelo.
We have some oral history. We don't disregard oral history. We recognize it does have some value, but the way to strengthen oral history is to tie it to archaeological or some type of scientific backing. Any thoughts on that, Mussy, before I continue? Or
Nope. Nope.
any
Go ahead. Go
comments?
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Joe.
To establish the extent of Tonga's maritime polity, we geochemically analyzed stone tools excavated from the central places of the ruling paramounts, particularly lithic artifacts associated with stone faced chiefly tombs. Now, they're referencing those are the langis
That's in Tonga.
throughout
Yeah.
Mua, and especially in Mua, because that's where you'll find
Correct.
more, because that's the largest and the longest Tuitonga settlement of the
Correct.
6 settlements. The lithic networks of the Tongan state focused on Samoa and Fiji, with one axe or stone axe sourced to the Society Islands, 2,500 kilometers from Tongatapu. Now,
Mm.
people say, oh, there's no connections to Eastern Polynesia. All of Tonga's connections are to Western Polynesia. Well,
Correct.
this
Correct.
directly makes a connection.
Hmm.
Um, to the east to test the hypothesis that the non-local lithics were especially valued by Tongan elites and were an important source of political capital. We analyzed pre-state lithics from Tongatapu and stone artifacts from Samoa. In the Tongan state, 66% of work stone tools were long-distance imports,
Import.
indicating that the inter-archipelago connections intensified with the development of the Tonga polity after 1200 AD. What
Mm.
any comments on that? Looks like we have a comment from the chat, but any
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Mussy?
No, that really solidifies of what an empire looks like, right? You got other
Yes.
islands of Polynesia, 66% of the tools that they found in Tonga. And this is and this is the kind of, and this is the Western education that really helps, that I don't, that is good, because one, they're just analyzing the tools. The part of the, the ones we kind of come in conflict with are the academics who kind of give their own in perspectives. They're not, this is what Western society really helps to kind of uncover the Polynesians. They're just using the technology that we have, analyzing, dating where all
Yeah.
these tools come from, and
What
and
is what is the
they give
data
it,
telling us?
where, what is the data? And that's what I like about it. They're just giving the data. I'm not a fan of these academics who are just trying to just give us interpretation of their own, which they're not the source from. That's the issue we run into.
Yeah.
And this is what I like. They just give us the data. 66% of their findings, the tools that they found in Tongatapu, particularly in in the in Mua, they're finding that all of them came from other islands, and that's an indication of an empire, people paying tribute to
Yeah.
emperor, or the most powerful title in all of Polynesia, and that really indicates that there, what, like AI was saying, Gronk, that Tuitonga was an empire. So that's all I really wanted to say on that. Like I said, I know we had one of our viewers that mentioned that Tui Manua had trading routes
Yes.
that really they focused on, but like I said, the trading routes don't. If you're trading with other Pacific islands, you would find some evidence of majority of the materials there would be outside of Manua, or out of Ha'amoa, to prove that. And also the um, the reason of why this solidifies our point of Tonga being an empire and Polynesia being one. So
Yes.
yeah, that's no, pretty awesome article, but glad you found it to us, so we can discuss with our viewers, and it's just a discussion to try to understand our origins, so
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And this is the thing. We get accused. Maybe I'm overly defensive about it, but I keep bringing it up. We
Mm,
get overly accused of two things: being disrespectful for our history, right? And I'd say, what history am I being disrespectful to? You mean the oral history that could or could not be correct, right?
mm,
When there's competing oral history,
yeah,
you have an oral history from Samoa. You have an oral history from Fiji. You have an oral history from Tahiti. You have an oral history from all the different islands, many times contradicting each other.
correct.
And so we're not trying to be disrespectful. We're trying to say, with all these different ideas, which one of these we can't all be correct, right?
Hmm.
Where we're all saying opposite things. So there's that part of that. The other thing that we get criticized on quite a bit is we're only promoting Tonga. Well, it's just because two things. A lot of the evidence seems to point to Tonga, and this is one of them when we're discussing them. The other thing is when we reference Tonga, we're talking about the capital of a nation, which was all of Polynesia. So we are all one people. All we're
Mm,
trying to say is where was the capital, right? That's the only thing we're not trying to divide. We're actually trying to bring everybody together and say Tonga is a testament of the shared knowledge and experience throughout the entire empire because of all that collected experience and knowledge deposited on the Tuitonga, because that's like the collective experience of the entire nation. That's the only reason why, well, and God, we obviously believe in God, but in regards to human and human knowledge and experience was in the Tuitonga because it was the center of the empire. You remove that and you put it in Samoa, you put
yeah,
it in Tahiti, or you put it everywhere else, that would have been the island that would have probably
correct.
maintained independence. But we're just trying to say we are
There's a
one people. We want everybody to come together, but the only way we can come together is if the truth is known and understood. And we're
mm.
just trying to present what we find to be the truth.
No, and another thing I was just thinking too, I know they've used this word umiti, another way of paying, or people coming to exchange of goods in Manua. It was like our form, their form in
Yes.
Manua Umiti with our Bolo and Inasi. That's another reason why there's really
Hmm.
no findings in um, Manua with their form of paying tributes to the Tui Manua. There was no evidence of that, so there was no really Umiti, and that could have been, like I said, it could have been. I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna be too harsh. It's probably Umiti, probably within the family of Tui Manua, paying tributes, and just within them. But like, yeah, Umiti did not involve the all of Polynesia. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And we're gonna see here that, well, this next sentence is kind of the reason what you're saying, that it's not likely, right?
yeah,
The Umiti was multi-island or thousands of
correct,
miles. Is it
correct.
says here, in contrast, stone tools found in Samoa were from local sources,
Mm,
including tools associated with a monumental structure contemporary with the Tongan state. That's the Pulelele Mound,
mm,
that
mm-hmm,
everybody, we've had multiple people say, "Oh,
correct.
we the Tui
It,
Manua had this," and it was like, dude, that was during the Tui Tonga time. And at least until we find new data, that's what it's
yeah,
pointing to.
correct,
Network
correct.
analysis of lithics entering the Tongan state and of the distribution of Samoan axes or adses in the Pacific identifies a centralized polity and the products of specialized lithic workshops, respectively. So what
Mm-hmm,
this is saying is the movement of the Samoan stones and its finding and the diversity of finding in Tonga shows that it was the center of the politics in the empire, but Samoa had a specialty skill in making those axes. And
mm-hmm,
and that's why, and we'll look at a graph later on, that's why we find these axes and we have a theory as to how it got distributed
mm,
throughout the other parts of Polynesia. But when we get to that graph, we'll talk about it.
mm,
Um, these results indicate that a significant consequence of social complexity was the establishment of new types of specialized sites in distant geographic areas. This is important.
mm,
In Fiji, the Tuitonga Empire identified what's the unique resource that Fiji could give to the empire. It was the giant trees to build the major kalias. So
transport.
Fiji, yes,
Mm,
Fiji became like the quote unquote ship production, right? Certain
mm,
Tongans went there, or lived there, and they were that was the resource. From this, we know that at the very least, stone axes was a specialty production out of Samoa. That seems
mm,
to be the most prolific stone axe used in the Polynesian Empire. We're starting to see a form of economy, like they're saying here, specialization. What are you good at?
mm-hmm,
Which part of the empire was really good at making axes? Well, it seemed like our ancestors all agreed.
mm,
Samoa had the best either rocks or the best craftsmen and the best
mm,
resources to make stone axes. Fiji had the resources to build the giant canoes for, traveling thousands and thousands of miles. We're starting to see what you would expect, like you said, out of an empire. Any thoughts
correct.
there, Mussy?
No, that correlates that story of why people from Ha'amoa were specialized using their materials from Upolu and Savai and probably Tutuila too, coming to Tonga because even our family land called Lakuanga Fue is
Yes.
a reference to Samoan or Ha'amoa workers coming because they built the
Bye
Namwala
bye.
Langi that's
Yeah.
behind Pai Terea, that's behind our property.
Yes.
And that correlates with why Ha'amoas was specialized in that because they
Stone
had the
carving,
stone
axes. They
carving
they were
axes.
that was a skill set that the Samoans had. And when we say
Yeah,
Samoans, once again, we're not saying like it was an independent country. It was all Polynesian Empire, but
we were all
we
one.
have to
Yes,
speak that way just so that we understand what places we're talking about.
correct, correct.
Let's pause there real quick. We do have a handful of comments. I don't want it to
Okay.
get too far behind us. In most island group, the name Tonga is in reference to the town of that island. Even on the compass, if you follow the direction Tonga, you will find civilization there for Tonga. That's a fair point. Just look at Kona, right? It's on the biggest island there, and it's also the most southern point.
Mhm.
Obviously, so yeah, there could be some points to that. Any comments?
No, no comments. Good question, Shonetang.
Hey, Fifita,
Oh,
Malo, thank
Vivita.
you for the shout out. Welcome. You joined quite a bit earlier, but we're just finally getting to the comments here to make sure we don't get too far. The Atenisi crew rely too much on the Heliakis. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that, Masi?
No, and that's I kind of referred to it earlier, Kurt, that the history where it implies your lot of your perspectives, and like I said, it's fine giving your perspective, and then we have to ask, okay, then what family you come from? Where exactly are you from? If you take away your PhD or your Western education, where exactly do you come from so you can speak on this Tongan history? Where it's relevant. But like I said, and that's the difference. That's the difference where I have with this is more analyzing, carbon dating the data points of where these materials come from. That's totally different because it's very just putting technology and people can just put things together. That's complemented with your oral history. So that's where I kind of want to speak on that, Dua. But
Yeah, I'm gonna take a shot to kind of put your what you described there just in kind of like a story or just kind
yeah,
of like a structure, Masi.
analogy. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
just let me know if this makes sense. The data points through science are just data points, right? But they don't tell a story. Our oral history, the correct oral history, gives the context and the story behind the data. If you just take the data on its own, in many ways, it can kind of tell of a story, but it doesn't. It's like in black and white. But when you
mm,
combine the data with the correct oral history that matches with the data, then it's like in color, right? Then there's more
mm,
meaning to the data. But you have to have the proper interpretation of the oral history. Like we mentioned, not all oral history are correct. And you have to kind of filter. It's what you're describing of, where and how you got that interpretation or the source of that oral history is kind of like a peer review of a study, right? A peer
correct.
review of the study is where your scientific methods
Yeah.
independent? Are you just giving that conclusion because this guy who wrote your check to fund your to
Yeah.
fund your study, is that the reason why you have the conclusions? It's the same thing with oral history.
Mm.
Um anyways, that's my 2 cents. Maybe
No,
it doesn't add additional
no, no,
value
no.
to your position,
No,
Masi.
it makes sense. Makes sense. Well,
um Brown Monk Hawaiian history says Hawaii Loa's granddaughter Kea Kailalo married his brother, which that was one thing that was very
mm,
common in Hawaii, right? Kind of a
mm-hmm.
sibling marrying situation. We have a
Yeah.
situation in Tonga where the tapu system was installed because the Tu'i Tonga married a Hawaiian who practiced this type of
Yes.
brother sister marrying, and it led to a situation in Tonga. So we can see where this is going, and it's high probability.
Mm,
Married his brother Key's grandson Te Aria and placed him at Samoa. They are the answers to this. Possibly. I don't know how to confirm or not, because what I will say is this: there seems to be a relatively, how I want to say this, there seems to be a barrier. That's the way I describe it, between Manua and the rest of Samoa,
mm,
right? And maybe those who settled in the other Samoan islands, maybe they come more from the Hawaiian side settlement.
mm,
Just like in Tonga, when the Tuikanuku was installed, there was a huge influx of thousands and thousands of Samoans into Tonga through the Tuikanuku line,
correct.
and that makes sense because the Tui Tonga already has so much influence. The Tui Takalaua already has so much influence over the people. So the Tuikanukupolu's got to figure out a way. How do I get people that are going to do my work and they're going to be loyal to me
And have influence in
and
Tongatapu.
have influence on Tongatapu? Is you have to import. You have to import the people. Maybe something similar happened on the other Samoan islands.
Mm,
Maybe there was a Hawaiian influence that came down and that
mm-hmm,
kind of put them at odds with the Tu'imanua,
mm,
which had a closer claim to Tonga from our perspective. And
mm-hmm.
maybe that's why the Tu'itongas were more willing to go to and have more interactions with Samoa out of respect to the Tu'imanua because of that closer family tie than the other parts of Samoa. Possibly Brown Monk. I don't know. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Masi?
No, no. I think that's a good explanation of that regarding like of Ha'amon now, how it's kind of Tu'i Manua has always been in it's a special category, just
Mm,
even throughout the ancient history. It could be because of the close ties to Tonga. Could have been to the Tu'i Tonga in Tonga Tapu, and most of those people that were staying there probably Tu'i Tonga followers that went to Tu'i Manua. If we don't know for a fact, but where it's leading, the more and more we discuss this, that the Tuimanua derives from the Tuitonga. Upolu, Savai, and like Tutuila could have been maybe influenced by the other Pacific Islanders. Tahiti, or maybe even like Lalotonga, Hawaii, and I'm just thinking because there was many times that the Tui Tonga would go and live in Upolu. Many times
mhm,
there's a place in Upolu. People think most modern Samoans would think there's a place called Saina, but the correct term is Sa Ina, which translates that it was forbidden to go there because the Tuitonga would live there, and it's one of the few places in Samoa that they don't have they call it the fa'alupenga, like proper protocols of historic families that you
mhm.
mentioned in your formal speech. That area, the Sa'ina, means it's an area that doesn't really have one of those things because the Tuitonga would live there.
Outside,
They,
yeah, outside
yes,
influence than the typical
yes,
normal culture.
yes. So that's what I'm saying. Um, the Tuitonga probably just stayed there, and it was just like I said, it's because maybe these were distant relatives throughout the Polynesian Empire, and Manua was kind of like its isolated uh nation kind of thing, and maybe there were some uh
I
interactions, but it was more of like maybe a catch up of a relative, but for some
I
reason it
have
was
a
a special
theory. I have a
special
theory that
special
just popped
category.
up.
What's up?
It
What's
I
up?
literally this theory just popped up. This is all speculation, right?
Okay.
But it is not uncommon for an oldest child, because the Tuitonga would have multiple children. It is not uncommon that a quote unquote oldest male did not become the Tuitonga, right?
Yes.
We look at Urakimata,
Mm-hmm.
right? Between Telea and what's his name? The one that's in Malo Malo in our shoot, our ancestor. I
What?
forgot his name.
No, no, no. Tapuoshi? No, no, no,
No,
not Tapuoshi.
it's Tapu Osi's son, the older son, the one who came in
Oh,
second. Telea showed up first.
yeah,
Um,
Terea and Lomu Eiki.
Lomu Eiki. There we go. There we go.
There we go. Yes, Lomu Eiki.
So
Yes, the older
Lomu
one. Yeah.
Eiki was the older one, right? But
Yes.
because he showed up second,
Yes.
Tapu Osi gave the Tuitonga to Lomu Eiki's younger brother.
Terea.
So what I'm getting to is this: it is not unreasonable to say maybe there was a situation
Mm,
where something similar happened, and the Tu'imanua is an older brother of who eventually became
sa Tuitonga.
the Tu'itonga, and that's a potential explanation for the respect and for whatever that's very possible because we've seen it
Mm,
happen
correct.
in other instances in the history. So
Mm,
that could be a potential explanation for it.
mm, No, and I can see that too. Like you're saying, we're just trying to make things sense, and just knowing how there's been instances of the older brother losing his title, losing his let's just say birthright, because it is kind of their birthright. But the father of the Tuitonga is just saying, kind of slipping here and there. I kind of noticed you're a bit lousy a little bit. Just give it to the younger one, because we have seen it. We that's a close story with us where Lomu Eiki was still respected. He would like get some of the 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 Inasi, kind of the first choices, but the Tuitonga went to his
His
younger brother.
brother.
So you know what? That could be Tua, and it's part of that Tongan etiquette. He's the older brother. We'll just kind of leave him to be. We'll go and
Yeah.
check up and maybe have
In
some
the family has
deal.
decided to maintain the relationship of respect. That's what you do.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
go and bother them. We've agreed as a family. They
correct.
paid their little sacrifice to keep the peace. Our
Hmm.
sacrifice to keep the peace is don't bother him and his
Correct.
descendants. That's
No,
just an
good.
idea.
Yeah, good little explanation. That's an
Yeah.
idea.
A couple other comments here. We need to learn how to read our first written language, Kupesi, like the Egyptians or cavemen have wrote
Mm.
with pictures.
It's still an ongoing discussion, Shione. You know,
Yes.
uh, Dua has kind of from the beginning saying that there has to be some kind of written form communication, because in order to maintain, especially you know the astronomical knowledge of navigating and to pass on, especially within the Polynesian Empire, to travel to very precise location, it had to be somewhere, and then maybe over time lost it. I'm not there yet, but maybe the Kupesi was some form of language. To us, looks like what Shione is kind of indicating here. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my comment there regarding that.
Yeah. Because the Egyptians had the hieroglyphics, but then they also had a more fluid language, right?
Mhm.
So the hieroglyphics was kind of more the pictographic. Maybe that's what the Kupesi was. I'm leaning towards it was a more sophisticated language, but I can see how just like the Hebrew languages, there's simplified versions to kind of you know
Mhm.
make fit more information into a smaller space. So I'm definitely a believer, Shione, that we had to have, like Masi said, a written language because that's the only way you can accumulate knowledge. And I lean more towards a more sophisticated language because just of how sophisticated the knowledge was, right? The more
Mhm.
sophisticated the knowledge, the more I say the language has to be somewhat representative of that
Mhm.
sophistication. Comment here from Alex: the two Hawaiians that came down with Mariner, they almost understood Tongans.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say almost. Alexander, from the descriptions, knew exactly, right? Like almost
Mhm.
exactly when Ulkalala told the Hawaiian guy to kill the cook, did not hesitate, did not, I mean, it seems like they were talking to each other and they knew each other's, well, not each other's language. They spoke the same language from the description. And that's what, potentially hundreds of years since the Polynesian Empire started crumbling.
Correct. Correct. They were still
Any
our
thoughts,
language
Masi?
was no, no, and that's a good point. To me, the interesting fact, because I understand even up to that Mariners time, and that's we're talking about what early 1800s, Dua,
Yeah.
right? The language was very close, and that's why I'm kind of just giving my opinion here that when the missionaries kind of solidified a lot of the other islands, and then they were writing their what they thought the language sounded like, and then they were teaching the next generation, because it was very common that the missionaries were also their teachers
Hmm.
too. And then the whole formal colonization of formal governments kind of made our languages kind of distinct and changed. That's where I'm coming from, because we're talking about Mariner, who was in Tonga, the early 1800s. The language, we got somebody Hawaiians just coming off the boat after Ulukalala and his men has killed all the Europeans, pretty much saving a few boys and stuff. And the Hawaiians just came and integrated, and they already started communicating like they never left. So I find that very interesting.
Yeah, not 100%. Couple shout outs here. Slick Rick, good to
Oh,
see
mahalo,
you,
Slick Rick.
brother. Um, Here's another. I'm not familiar with this story, AJ. I heard that when the Samoans chased Tuitonga Talakai Faiki and his warriors, they sailed to Hawaii. I'm not sure 100% on the story behind that. Any thoughts on that, Masi?
No, no, I'm not too sure about that one. To AJ, where he sailed after bestowing the Maria Toa, which is one of the higher titles in Ha'amoa. But yeah, not sure regarding that question.
All right. Um, Nacho business here, kind of on the language, Shione, especially the motifs card on the Tongan war clubs. Yes, that's kind of interesting. You know what was interesting, Masi and
Mhm,
Nacho and Alexander and the team here on the language. When I was in England on the trip that I did in Europe, I was walking through what's called the Hatfield House.
mm,
And this is the house that Queen Elizabeth the First was living at when she found out her sister, talking about killing of kings and heirs and
yeah.
stuff. Her sister got executed and she found out she was going to be the queen. That's the house
Hmm.
she was living in. And it's like maybe 45 minutes north
Mm,
of London. When I
hmm.
was walking through the house, I was going up the stairs and I looked at these wooden things and I was like, that thing looks familiar. I walk up and they're Tongan war clubs. There were also Fijian and Papua New Guinea stuff, but they were
Mm,
Tongan war clubs, and it has kind of like those motifs that Nacho is talking about, where they would etch it right in
hmm.
little lines in different directions. It's kind of interesting. It'd be I wonder how much of these clubs are just sitting around in England in some of these random places.
Mm,
But that did come to
mm.
my mind looking at that comment there.
Cool.
Um, Here's God loves you said, that's what I've been saying, written language in Persia, same with Peru. And
Mm,
maybe our ancestors had a version of that language, God loves you, but I'm definitely a believer there had to have been a language of some sort, written language. Hosea 16:4 talks about the oldest son will hold most of the father's title, like Tongan culture that came before we could read. Once again, certain missionaries like George Vason would consistently say in their record they saw the Tongans practicing a lot of cultural rituals and behaviors that were very similar to ancient Israel. Shione.
mm,
So that's wouldn't be surprised if that's a correlation there.
mm,
Shione, the flower pattern in our kupesi is the flower of life created by overlapping spheres that create the center of the flower. This is only found through knowledge of mathematics. Interesting, because I've always wondered that, where you have the kupesi that kind of has like the eyes, but it has the flower patterns going on top and the
mhm,
bottom.
mhm.
Very interesting. Appreciate that. Any thoughts on that, Masi?
No, nothing too much. I think of the story of Dad. You know the lotus flower of where the
Yeah,
word lotu comes from,
comes from
and the yes, and the lotus flower is very significant in uh, in places because it's significant in Tonga because it only sits still in still water, and there's a meaning behind it. Apparently, like heaven and like underneath is like you know, underworld or hell kind of thing. But the word lotu comes from the word of that flower,
flower.
the lotus flower.
That's what
But
they call
yeah,
the lotus flower.
correct.
Very interesting.
Mm,
And then actually that lotus flower design is in Christianity and many other religions.
mm,
So yeah, we'll come back. Appreciate the comments. Once again, shoot them
exactly.
over. We'll walk through them. Let's come back. Here's a couple things that we highlighted. I think
Mm.
um
I'll read the highlighted
yeah,
version too.
read that highlighted version quick, Masi. You can see it.
So, archaeological evidence for prehistoric interaction is critical to understanding the role of inter-societal contact and the power strategies used by elites in the formation of complex societies. In the first half of the second millennium AD, a powerful and complex society emerged in the Tonga Islands that was unique in the Pacific for the way it aggregated an entire archipelago under a single political system considered a maritime empire chiefdom, Tonga has recently been categorized as a primary is it archaic
Hmm.
state that, along with the late prehistoric politics of the Hawaiian Islands, there were the most complex societies in prehistoric Oceania.
Yeah.
The control, or do you want me to go to the next one? Or
Yeah, I
you
was
have
just gonna
anything
stop.
to add?
This is one of our critiques
Hmm.
of the Tuipulotu and the Tuimanua
Hmm.
empires. Is it is it is already a major effort just to control nearby islands, right?
Hmm.
Just to have, let's say, in a sense, the majority of Fiji, the major islands, control, single political structure, single leader in those islands.
Mm.
That is a huge feat to just do that. That is why we are somewhat doubtful that the Tu'imanua and the Tu'ipulotu were able to be an expansive empire, because we don't have a strong, even not even a strong oral history of
Correct.
control over all the nearby islands in Samoa for the Tu'imanua and also for the Tu'ipulotu. Now, the Hawaiian Islands, that's relatively new because King
Correct.
Kamehameha, that's one of the first times that ever happened. But
Correct.
everyone in Polynesia and in oral history recognizes Tonga had a single ruler, not only in Tonga, but throughout many other islands. But I just want to kind of reiterate that what this paragraph is kind of saying is just having control over your 50 closest islands in your little area is a major feat. And they quickly recognize that Tonga achieved that. But that's
Mm.
kind of what I kind of took out of that context there.
No,
But
nice. Nice. No, because I was gonna mention that too, because what they've only found as being like actual, like somewhat of a political structure that kind of function on its own. They recognize that the Hawaiian Islands, like what you said, though, was much of a modern thing. Kind of the same thing with the current kingdom now with the Tuikan Polu. That's when it was happening. But when you go before that, Tonga has been recognized as still a maintaining existing power and political structure throughout all of Polynesia. So, it just adds more to our claim when they're doing all these studies and gathering data points throughout Polynesia, and also the carbon dating, that seems like Tonga's the only empire that ever existed. So
yeah,
yeah,
so hard to deny. Hard to
hard
deny
to
when I
deny.
see something like this. But go ahead, Masi.
Okay, so the control and redistribution of exotic goods is hoisted as an important source of capital used to support political centralization, but it has not been feasible to model prehistoric interaction in the expansive Tongan state using archipelago data because of the paucity, how do you say that?
Yeah, I'm not
Of
sure. Yeah.
paucity of excavations at the central places of the chiefdom, and the likelihood that most imports were made in perishable materials that tend not to preserve in tropical contexts. As a result, it has been unclear how far Tongan influence extended, whether the political economy,
We can probably read maybe the next couple sentences here. Just
yeah,
finish off that paragraph. Oh, let me trying to slide here.
no worries, no worries. Here
Just
we
finish off
go.
that
Yep.
paragraph.
Involved control and distribution of prestige exotic goods by elites, and whether the polity's interaction sphere was only one of several prehistoric networks responsible for the movement of people, goods, and ideas in the Central Pacific. What's your thoughts on that, Dwarf?
Yeah. So really, what they're trying to say here is they recognize that the majority of the goods moved around were probably perishable, but they're
Yes,
doing the stone ones as that's one of the ones that would have
lasted long in
lasted
the in,
lasted
in the
long enough.
climate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they do recognize this doesn't give a detailed, like you're saying, this does not give the context that the oral history gives. They're saying this is not an exhaustive smoking gun that it'll
Mm-hmm.
explain how everything interacted and moved um, around, but it's pretty powerful
Mm-hmm.
and pretty convincing from my perspective.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is when it mentioned there that they don't understand of how f- what's the extensive vast influence this
Yeah,
Tongan society, we all know is the Tongan empire under the Tuitonga, because we do have, we do have the capability of going all the way up to Japan, up to Asia, Southeast Asia, even up to China. Like, there could have been some materials that probably came from there during that time. But I'm just saying, what's only lasted because of the climate of the Pacific is only those stone materials. But I thought that was interesting.
yes. No, I agree. Um, let's come down to the first.
It's just the Fonuatanu.
Yes. So
Mm,
to zoom out just a little bit, some of you may have seen this before, but Tevita Fale has a
mm,
similar map. And this is, as we mentioned, Masi, this is the first time outside of Tevita Fale that we have seen a similar
correct.
map, right?
Correct.
And so, just for a quick, I'll read the description below. Plan view of La Paja showing the location of the largest tombs associated with the Tuitonga chiefdom, labeled by J structure number. Lithics
Hmm.
associated with tomb wall excavations are listed in the datasets S1 and S1 appendix. Stone tomb walls are outlined in blue and earth mounds are
And
green.
great.
So this is one of the things that we're talking about when we say a major civilization. We look for ruins, some type
Hmm.
of physical representation
Mm,
of sophisticated or complex knowledge. So, just in quick summary, this is land that exists today. And when it says reclaim land, this is all man made extension of the land, landfill. There was a small island that was off of here, but it was just first they started off with a road, right? Then they said, you know
mm,
what? Let's just make 100 acres of man-made land and a man-made harbor.
perfect.
Okay. Now just think of what type of complexity it takes to do that. That's civil engineering. This is labor management, right? Because you're going to need a ton of labor. And all this material were from excavations from these ditches. They
Mm,
basically took rock material and dirt from this ditch system and built man-made land. This is where the Kauhala Uta, right?
mm-hmm.
This is Taufahau Road, Kauhala Uta, which kind of referenced the Tuitonga, and then the
Yeah.
Kauhala Lalo, which primarily referenced the
Tula
Tuihata
Dalaw.
Kalau. So this is where they're getting, and this is where they mentioned earlier that they were digging here because it was a sign of, it was a prestigious sign, it that you had something from an island hundreds or thousands of miles away. That's why they're finding it. And they specifically chose this because that's where the Tuitonga was. Everyone knew that's where the Inasi, that's where the Polo Polo came
Mm,
from throughout the empire. And they brought
correct.
it there. But this is for everyone to understand, 100 acres of man-made land that goes into the ocean that has survived hundreds and hundreds. There are people living on this man-made land to
Today.
this day, which is just crazy. I don't know. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that, Mussy?
No, despite all the climate changes and the hurricanes still hitting Tonga, it's pretty amazing the how sophisticated and the amount of work the forefathers of Tonga created this, because that's pretty crazy. And you know what I when I mentioned earlier with the laku angafue with that property in our family, there
Yes.
was a
Right
I'm
here,
imagining
right?
because yes, I'm imagining the people from Ha'amoa coming with their because it's with their food and stuff, throwing it in a certain spot so they will go and work. And I'm talking about there could have been thousands because that amount of work, we're talking about thousands of people, maybe from Upolu and Sabay, all coming to work to build for the Tuitonga because that's a lot of work and we don't even know to this day how long it took to build
Yeah.
to build that. So nah, it's pretty crazy, and that's what we kind of. It's and another thing is pretty crazy that Tevita Fale did the same map before the technology that because I'm pretty sure these guys what 2010 to 2014 used a drone or whatever to kind of capture it and then kind of drew this, but Tevita Fale already knew everything of how it laid out and also provide the the story of why it was created way before this came out. But I just thought it was pretty crazy what
Yes.
David Tafale did.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is pretty much what he drew out, right?
Hmm.
And that was what, 30 years ago,
Yeah, 30, 35, yeah, years ago.
right? And this is coming from
The
the
20,
the uneducated crazy guy that
yeah,
has no right to tell history, right? That the
yeah,
academics throw under the bus and say, who is this guy? What does he
yeah.
know? And yet
Well,
he's telling people stuff that 30 years ago that only science is catching up to now.
yes. Well, and that's the thing he mentioned. He's like, when you talk about my family, I have to correct you and have to interject. And that's what kind of spurred his whole kind of crusade of this whole path of rediscovering our true Polynesian history kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So this is the background, right, where they're getting all these stone artifacts that they're going to do their study on. But we thought it was really important just to kind of just look at this when we ask people, show us some evidence of a empire, a sophisticated, unified empire with a leader and the ruins. This is the kind of stuff we're kind of talking about,
Yep.
right? I mean, this is why Grok says the Tuitonga is more likely an empire that existed than the Tuimanua
Tuman-
because the data is pretty convincing.
Tua,
Um,
you should have asked the question to Gronk about the Tuipulotu if there was any existence.
I don't I don't want to waste Grok's time
Okay, okay.
because, like we said, we can at least look at the Tuimanua and there seems to be something
Yes,
there,
yeah.
right? Not a whole lot, but unlike and you guys will love this. One of the things we've asked is like the Tui Pulotu to provide a name. One of our viewers did provide a very extensive name. Maybe we'll get through it in the comments and we'll
Okay.
mention it at the end of the Kava session here. But yeah, we may have discovered the first ever. We may have discovered, maybe we'll frame it that way in a positive way.
Okay.
The Polynesian Eyes podcast may have uncovered the first ever
Tuipulotu.
Tu'ipulotula, and it's very
Yeah.
extensive list. So maybe we'll get to that because that may
Oh,
be groundbreaking.
groundbreaking for Polynesian Eyes podcast. Oh,
We'll slide down here. There's a couple things here to kind of discuss. Look at the distribution of where all the different sources of stone came from on Tongatapu,
mm,
right? We have Ewa, obviously part of Tonga. Within Tonga, East Fiji, West Fiji, Upolu, Savaii, Samoa, Tutuila. Kind of surprised that they separate. Oh, it's because American Samoa, right? And
correct.
then East Polynesia and the Society Islands. So Tahiti,
Mm,
Bora Bora, all
Lalotonga,
Rarotonga,
Marquesas,
that whole
and
area right there. We also have some from the Rotuma. But look
Rotuma.
at and like 66% of the samples that they found
Hmm.
were from outside of Tonga.
Yeah.
So then we come down to Samoa, which they used as a control. Pretty much it's
Also
all from Samoa.
materials. No, and like we mentioned earlier, no no kind of evidence to prove that other islands of the empire were coming to Samoa with other
Yeah.
materials.
And like you mentioned earlier, if I were to show this data and let's say we removed it, and I'm just going to pose the theoretical question and say, take the Tongan name out, take the whatever name out, and just say, look at these two graphs.
Hmm.
Which one do you think was not just an empire, but as some have posed, that the Tuimanua was a trading
Yes, good
specialist?
point.
Which one is the actual trading center point?
Mm,
I
mm,
would think anyone would probably lean towards this,
mm.
right? Because you're
Yeah,
seeing a variety of goods from throughout Polynesia, east and west,
correct.
found on Tongatapu.
No, good. Yeah. And these are just data points. These are guys that just, like I said, they're just keep giving us the data, carbon dating, researching, and digging dirt. This is what they found.
Yep. We did also come across this table, which
Mm,
in a sense is describing um, the Samoan axes that were found in other islands versus what was found in Tonga. And as we were mentioning earlier, it seems like, especially in Tutuila, and well, it
mm,
has them combined, and Samoa. Samoa were the specialists of axe and stone tools.
mm.
That is where they seem to have excelled at.
Yeah, that was definitely
The
their skill in Polynesia and the
Yes.
empire.
So some of the ideas. So the question now becomes, how did all the axes from all these different islands get there?
Mm,
Right? That's the question. Because obviously we've explained no, Tonga has it from multiple different areas, Eastern Polynesia, Northern Polynesia, and Western. We have a theory on how that would have worked. So the theory that we have is, so the polo polo was the first fruits, right? That was mostly agricultural. It was much more a religious and faith-based tribute. What was more like a tax tribute was the inasi.
mm,
And the inasi was, wherever you came from, what was the best product or um, agriculture, or whether it was domesticated animals, whatever
mm, mm,
it was like the entire Polynesian empire brought their best as a tax and a contribution to the Tuitonga through the Inasi. Now, the oral history and some of the understanding we have on the function of the Inasi, it wasn't just the Tuitonga or the Tuiha Takalaua just taking everything and keeping it. A big part of the Inasi was actually, and this is a very common practice, like we've discussed in the past, in the traditional way of hosting a feast in
mm,
the Tongan culture. Everybody, if a guy was really good, he had a lot of pigs, really good at raising, he would bring the pigs. One guy was really good at farming ufi, he would bring the ufi. Another
mm,
person was, and so everybody would bring what they were good at, right? Bring it to make the feast. They would hold the feast. What was left over from the feast, you wouldn't give back to the guy who brought pigs, right? Because he already has
pigs.
lots of pigs. So what you would do is, oh, the guy who brought the pigs, you would give him ufi,
Mm,
right? Because that would complement what he already has. With the
mm,
guy who brought the ufi, you would give him maybe the pork, or and so there was an effort to distribute what was brought in, and it makes a lot of sense because that's how you would reward and maintain the leadership throughout all the different islands. Is they would take their little quote unquote piece of the bartering or the system back to their islands. And
Mm,
if Samoa were the most proficient, they provided the highest quality axes, one would assume that's one of the tributes that they would bring. And that being a very valuable tool during those times, one would assume that that would be something that would be given to the other leaders of the other islands who came. And that's how you could potentially explain how all the axes were distributed
mm,
throughout the Polynesian Empire. Just some thoughts
mm.
there. Any
Yeah.
things to
No,
add there?
just to add on, I mean, the that's during the Inasi. That's the reason why a lot of the Samoans really specialize, not only with the materials of creating axe and creating langis and other stone structure too, but also the ie, the kie. They
Yeah,
would bring that. Samoans are very known for making really fine um, kie
mats.
tonga,
Yeah,
yes, kie more, and bringing that over. Fijians, like I said, the Fijians were really known because it was such a vast island with like birds and different kind of things. I can see them bringing that.
feathers and yeah,
Feathers. Haiti known for its jewelry and other aspects of like pearls and stuff, and they can probably bring like that's during the whole part of the Inasi. And then I'm just seeing with even the cultural parts, even in Tongan society now, when they distribute it back, that usually even when couples get married, the male would always bring the pig because they usually will have the pigs bring a pig when they come and propose to the wife or to the what fiance's family, and then they would bring usually because you're the female side will bring all the mats where
kolo.
the
Yeah,
koloa, the mats and the ngatu because the female side really hold on to those things and they do an exchange, right? The male's family will get some of the koloa and the female family get the pigs and the food. So like this kind of practice of these ancient ways are still being passed down even to today, and it's just a it's almost like when your ancestors do something so many times for how many generation, you just haven't you just haven't inclination to just to act on it. Many
yeah,
Tongans still hold on to that and do it.
yeah.
So
It's been such a part of the culture and quote unquote DNA. You just
yeah,
can't help but
yeah.
just do it. Let's catch up on a couple comments here. Here is Asione, the lotus flower in India is the flower of life for us. It's the kupesi. Yeah, that seems to be a popular position in the
Mm,
chat on the lotus flower, the tree, the flower of life. Um, Tongans had the most intricate and mathematically accurate designs, most symmetrical designs, according to James Cook. Interesting. It's my first
mm.
time hearing that. God love you.
Oh,
Appreciate
God
that.
love you.
That's an interesting comment. I didn't know, and I'm assuming that's Captain James Cook.
Mm,
Um, Alexander, Vikings were Tongans of the Atlantic. Yes, the biggest difference between the Tongans and the Vikings could only stay in the northern hemisphere. One of the biggest things that separated the Polynesian slash Tongan navigators. We could navigate northern and southern hemisphere because the Polynesian Empire crossed into both
correct.
hemispheres.
No, and isn't it because of the advancement, and that's why they call Polynesians the master navigators than any other
Correct.
groups, is because they could navigate both the northern and southern hemisphere.
Yeah. And the southern hemisphere, this is why a lot of the academics for decades, even hundreds of years, said there was no way our ancestors could navigate because in the northern hemisphere, easy, North Star, you always know your direction.
And the
Southern
landmass,
hemisphere,
easy to
yes,
navigate because the landmass in the
large
northern is
land
much easier.
masses.
Yes,
Yeah,
but not little islands is difficult.
very difficult. And as we were mentioning earlier, is everything moves in the southern hemisphere. You have to be more sophisticated. You
Mm,
have to better understand the heavens, and make certain adjustments to be able to navigate the southern hemisphere.
mm,
Um, yes, it was the only empire starting with Tangaloa. Samoa Atoa is the name of the first empire because Tangaloa resided. That's a position we hear quite a bit. Brown Monk, we take a different position. Our position is that Tangaloa lived on Tongatapu. um, and maybe when you are willing and able to join us for an episode, we can go through the list that you have and also have further discussion on the more of the how and the why the Tangaloa position coming from Samoa. We'd
Mm,
love to discuss that. A couple questions here. Where did the stone from the Langi come from? There's multiple ideas on that. God loves you. Some people say from Tonga, from Ewa, and even Uvea, and even
mm,
further areas. There have been some of the ideas on where the stones for the Langi come from, even the Ha'amonga, which is
correct.
just kind of crazy to think. In even if they came from just Ewa,
Mm,
miraculous how in the world you're able to move that. That would be a difficult thing to do today, let alone you
back in
know
those days.
hundreds of, well, in the Among Us case, thousands and thousands of years possibly.
Well, that's my question, Dua. Which one is harder, building and transporting to build the Ha'amonga, or like creating a whole new land in that time? Like,
Fair
do
point.
that's
Fair point. Fair
so
point.
that's why it doesn't. I mean, it's just crazy that I was like, they probably
Yeah.
think the Ha'amonga was easier after they created a whole new land and a harbor for the Tuitonga. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. I don't
It,
know.
it is. It is. And it's because, I mean, how many times, even in our modern quote unquote science and engineering, we
Mm,
build a building and then look at the Leaning Tower of Pisa,
mm,
right?
mm,
That was a lack of civil engineering and structural engineering that led to that building
yeah.
leaning and tipping over. And yet here we have the Kauhalalalo side, 100
Mm,
acres that people
correct.
have been living on for hundreds of years
Yeah.
to this
and
day.
and like I said, with all the climate change that's happening and people are kind of freaking out with that, that land is still there and people are still happy to live there. They're not concerned about the the rise of the ocean. But
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little lost. Does this comment make any sense, Masi, on the separate? I don't know why they separate. I see what you did there. Maybe they're responding to another comment, but if you could clarify that, Brown Monk, maybe,
mm.
because I see Slick Rick here is having too much fun. You guys are having too much fun in the chat. We don't believe in having fun. And Mauhau, welcome. It says Tuipulotu means where the first circumcision started. Yeah, put the accent mark on the poo side. Huh? I see where you're going there. Um, oh, see here, Ewa has big holes in their cliffs, and it looks like limestone. Very interesting. Yeah,
Mm,
possibly. I do know that there are some rumblings in the oral history that some of these stones came from Ewa. These large stones. Yeah, large holes like caves in Ewa. New Zealand rock climbers in Ewa have some great footage on YouTube of the big caves. You know what? Let's see if we can find that.
interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because I do know that there's some like underwater caves in Ewa, but I haven't seen.
Man, I tried to go to Ewa, but I went on a day. It was a Saturday, and then all the Ewa people, when they go to Tongatapu, they do all their big shopping, and the boat was full. So my wife and I couldn't go to Ewa. But that's one of the islands I definitely want to go and check out and explore. And apparently that. And I was just thinking, out of all the seas in Tonga, that behind right there, going to Ewa, behind in the back of Tongatapu. Apparently, it's one of the roughest part of navigating. I'm just thinking if they were gonna bring the stones, those limestones from Ewa, that hey, that's amazing. It's amazing.
So I found a video. I don't know if this is the one you're referencing. God loves you, but we will pull it up and watch it. This is why we appreciate the feedback because I'm not aware of this and I grew up on Tongatapu and have no idea. I do know that there's like some underwater caves, but that's about all I knew. Um,
Okay. The only underwater caves I kind of really know, I thought were in Bavao, but
Oh, you know what? I'm showing the largest cave in the USA. What? That's not it. We want Ewa, people.
nice, nice.
Smoking cave and big ovava tree. What is the smoking cave? Let's try this. Let's see where this goes. Can you see it? Oh, there we go.
It's loading. There we go. Yep.
This is, they don't know the end of it. Man, it's awesome.
Is that a waterfall?
Ana ajo.
Man, that's awesome. And, yeah, so that's Ana'aho. It's beautiful, but very, very dangerous. They had two guys that came across. It was getting dark, and they came across here to head to town, and they didn't realize that Ana'aho was here. One guy fell in, died, and fell in, but he was on a slab of like a step down there. So the soldier went down. A couple of soldiers went down and brought him up.
And unfortunately, actually, I don't know. Did he say, was it a kid or a grown man that fell?
Looks like it's a man.
Oh, okay. And unfortunately, I think one of my buddy's good friends growing up, his brother, younger brother, died in Ewa, fell in something similar to that. So, yes, I'm gonna try and find. He said climb Ewa. Oh, here it is. I think this is the one.
Brett, the guy that made Climb Ewa. I wanted to include a short intro here because since I shot the film in 2016, a fair bit has happened since then. So stick around for the end for an update as of late 2017. For now, the story begins with an American climber who lived on the island several years before we got there.
I was bored with my life in the States and just wanted to try something different. I applied to a number of jobs, and the Peace Corps came back to me and said, how about business advising in the South Pacific? I was like, sweet, all right, let's go.
This is why we're so glad to hear the Tongan government allowed Starlink. It was silly because you can now have people like this gentleman live in Tonga, probably get paid US wages, doing online stuff, and contributing to the Tongan economy. Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Go. But I have one condition. The condition has to be there's got to be rock. Like if you send me to a country that there's no rock, I'm going to leave. And so when I got the invite to the Kingdom of Tonga, I got on Google Earth, which had just opened up, a year or two before that, and just started fishing through it, looking at everything. And I'm like, okay, Ewa is where I want to live. There's rock everywhere, but Ewa is where I want to live. And I got lucky enough to do it.
Wow. Here's your rock.
Here's your rock. Through the grapevine, I think planning to return to New Zealand and mentioned that seeing these amazing cliffs in Tonga. And then I heard about a chap called Jason, an American Peace Corps volunteer that had spent 2 years on the island, who had actually documented the cliffs. So I looked him up and got in contact with him, and he sent me this PDF that he had put together. And I was instantly, impressed by the photos and by the fact that, he seemed so sure that there was great climbing potential on Ewa.
The whole east ridge line of Ewa is just a massive limestone cliff with all sorts of different spots that you can climb. It was both really magical and really torturous to be the only climber in the country. About a third into my service, I came home for a visit, and I brought
Man, that's beautiful shot.
Back with me because I realized what was available. I brought my static lines, my dynamic lines, my drill, everything I brought back. And still, I was the only climber. So, I had the chance to abseil and check out a bunch of the rock and
Yeah.
do some exploration, but never actually
Yeah, Brown Monk. I
climb, which is frustrating.
didn't even know how beautiful it was because I've never been there, and I lived on the island right next to it. Crazy.
The basic plan for this trip is to spend 2 weeks here, getting around the island and figure out like the best locations and actually bolt some routes. My wife and I kind of decided that we'd come here in August.
Just a funny note. Don't take the Lulutai planes. We've had some issues with safety. That's why the New Zealand Chatham.
Chatham Islands is currently flying the domestic routes. In Tonga.
So just a heads up. If you want to go see the beautiful cliffs, just make sure you pick the right airline.
Well, no, and I was gonna say the going on boat is not too bad. Going from Tongatapu to Ewa, it's like for hours wise, I think it's only like 2.5 or maybe 4 the most, but it's not too bad.
Not
But
too
yeah,
bad.
but sometimes, I mean, if you get seasick, apparently it is pretty rough, especially
Pretty
when
rough.
you go the back of Tongatapu going hit the seas can get pretty rough, but yeah.
And I let people know, and Tony and Elisa immediately were keen to come along. Jean and I just recently got married, so it's kind of our honeymoon. So we've got some friends along for the honeymoon and a film crew, yeah.
I guess we're hoping to find a bit of a package in terms of a climbing destination, something that's a good enough quality that, would actually recommend it. And then the whole package of having a tropical holiday, a beach, some snorkeling.
When Greg asked me if I wanted to come along, it seemed like a really good idea, especially if we could turn this into some form of venture that the community could get involved with, they could benefit from.
Climbing in Ewa has come up at least once a year since I've left, and it's either the Ministry of Tourism or one of the tourism businesses that says, hey, there's a climber that came through, wants to talk to you about this stuff. And nobody's had the wherewithal to put it together because it's a pretty massive undertaking.
I guess we did do quite a bit of planning for this trip. A lot of that was around trying to get local contacts, but we were really looking to try and get in contact with people from local authorities or the Ministry of Tourism, and actually trying to just understand who was in a position to give us permission to climb here in Ewa.
To me, the best way to do this would be to establish lines that everybody can get on. Really, Whangatave is the easiest to access.
So Whangatave is a beach on the northeast coast. The cliffs step
Man,
back
look at that.
away from the sea. Arriving at Ewa, however, we started our trip staying at the Ovava.
See if we
Tree
can
Lodge,
get into
and
those.
The guy that runs it, Latani, he recommended that we go and see the kind of animal running down here, like maybe it was a pig or something. Oh, that looks good.
Sweet.
It looks perfect. It is. It's just beautifully, slightly overhung, pocketed limestone.
Yeah, featured enough, eh?
Yeah,
But
it's
still
featured
like
enough.
some slippery stuff, so
I mean,
not a pushover.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect that would be too difficult, but really fun.
Outflows down there looks so
Maybe further over.
A lot of places to grip, I guess.
Yeah,
more difficult.
I can
good.
see
It looks like
the
it was pretty much all the way to the top without that darker grey stuff that's kind of sharp. That looks, whole wall looks good.
You could easily put a track up here.
It's crazy
Oh, that
because
looks just zero.
like growing up in Tongatapu, never seen a lot of terrain like that. You know what I mean? Because Tongatapu is just pretty much flat.
A lot of
Trans.
very different, very different.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Cleaning, freaking pleasantly rounded holds. Wow, that's quite a relief. Yeah, to find like there is actually good quality rock, like super compact quality rock. Doesn't look sharp at all.
Look at that, dude.
Featured, like
Maybe that's the
just
holes
right
and
amount,
stuff that he's
probably.
referring to.
Range of grades. Yeah, beautiful beach. What more could you ask for?
So good at how it's got this clear base too. Like, no, you don't even need to clear anything.
It's a proper crack base.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
you've got
man,
the chill
yeah.
out rocks.
Manicured.
You've got your trees to put your hammocks in.
These trees are cool, aren't they? Looks like a nice, really nice rock just right behind that tree there.
Yeah, yeah,
and
that should
and
keep
up
it
over
flowing.
yonder, that light coloured rock.
Guess we should check out just what's around the corner too.
Yeah. Let's walk around. Kind of more anxious now about the King's permission,
I know.
you know. Like, oh shit, knowing that it's really
That's
good
a good
rock.
point. That maybe some giant mountains. That's what Ewa is.
Street rock up there.
Yeah, that street liner. You go through all that cave, super featured overhung jungle gym.
It's like better than I thought. That's better than I thought it might have been.
Not sure God loves
There's
you.
a start folder for you.
Yeah, what a cool way to start. Smooth, crystalline kind of limestone.
Beautiful, man. Can you imagine?
So
I think we got a good idea on that. But can you imagine, like, we're doing a climb with the ocean in the background, right? The jungle
and that's-
beneath you, and you're climbing. That's a really cool. This is kind of the unique stuff that Tonga needs to identify and highlight.
No, and that's what needs to be pushed out too, because to also
Yeah.
stimulate the that type of hobby. Obviously, if this guy from the U.S. finds this very fascinating, now he's sharing what he's found to the New Zealand Palangis. They're finding fascination with it. So that's a very unique thing. So that's something, like I said, I haven't heard of it. I'm surprised it was a thing of rock climbing in Tonga, but see, that's something that can also stimulate the economy for Ewa. So
Yeah.
just for the modern discussion for Tonga to build more economic activity.
Yeah. Hey, that was a good diversion there.
Yes.
But any
Malo, God's love you.
Malo. But any kind of closing thoughts, Masi, on the whole study, the whole position we're taking, the whole discussion? Any kind of closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts is I think we've able to at least maybe you can agree to this or not to it, but at least we're coming to the conclusion that the Tui Manua seems to be a title that was created during the Tui Tonga era. That's what it seems like. It's
Yes.
coming down,
Yeah.
and you've kind of started this discussion, and it makes sense that it's usually the oldest brother or sibling, and maybe there was some kind of issue, just like with how Tangaloa happened with the Tui Tonga, and even in the Tui Tonga era, not all the firstborn kind of got the title. Something happened, and they still give someone from the Tui Tonga a high title of Tui Manua, and they just kind of live the rest of their life within the Tui Manua, which has always been collected to make it like what is Samoa today. But we know that Manua has always been a unique category throughout its history. So that could explain why it was a person of rank that did not receive the highest title. More of a rank within the family, but not the highest title of Polynesia during that time. But yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate everyone's contribution and comments. Keep bringing those comments. If you have any questions or anything, we'll do our best to answer them. But I appreciate everyone's creating a great live session for today in this Polynesian Eyes podcast. Malo.
Yep. Not 100%. I appreciate, once again, like Masi said, always fun to have the interaction. That's why we try to do the lives more often, especially for like general episodes, because then we can do the live, interact with the viewers, and then also we'll still upload it into the podcast channel, on the audio and on the visual, as well. Looks like water bear is full. Wow. We must be missing out on some of the chats here or something. Oh, I see it now. My bad. See, this is the thing. I appreciate all the comments and stuff, because I try my best to stay on top of the comments, but it looks like we missed some. So AJ's comment brings back. It says James Cook wrote in his journals about the marijuana. The marijuana that was disputed from the Tui Nalania, who comes from the land of the talking lion.
Taufua au pito ai kawa. That's why. That's why. Waterburst is speaking like that. He's not taking all the kava
Mm.
powder away. He's putting it all in and drinking the whole thing. And
Inutautua.
he's had a revelation that this is what's happening. Maria Waterburst. Maria.
Hey, what
We
up,
believe in
Bears?
personal revelation.
Ew.
We
I
believe in
think
personal revelation.
I think you're not on Earth. I think you're in Pulotu right
No.
now. You're kind of halfway between. Oh man.
Maria. Maria.
That's hilarious. Hey, sorry guys if we missed some of the comments, and but appreciate it. We try our best to get to all the comments. Honestly, I have been pretty shocked on how successful we've been so far. To be honest, on the on the podcast, we were hoping to accomplish a couple things. Number one, have fun, right? Hey, Nalania, Brown Monk likes that one, Water Bears. We wanted to have fun. We wanted to have an opportunity to discuss some ideas, encourage discussions, also, give David Tafale a platform to express some of his findings and his effort and research, and just have what we have right here, right? A digital Kava session. We've enjoyed it. Really want to reiterate, it is not our intent to be divisive. We want just to have the conversation, let the ideas compete, have the ideas fight, but as brothers and sisters, we can enjoy each other's conversation, share ideas. We learn a lot from each other, and honestly appreciate it. I can't express how helpful sharing, commenting, subscribing does for us, because it just helps us get the message out further. But really appreciate it. Yep, 100%. We look forward to hosting the digital Kava sessions as well. Malo Clyde Moore and Malo Shione Kurt, Malo Albito. And as always, stay curious, ask the questions, and most importantly, remember, we are all the same people. We all are one people. We should be very proud, and we should be looking forward to the opportunity to discuss our history. We have a lot to be proud of. And honestly, I really do believe this. We have a role to play in this world. And I haven't, put my thumb on what exactly it is, but there's just too many things. Our ancestors were led here to the last place on earth to be settled. We are the last place to be discovered. I think there's something we're bringing to the table that the world needs, and it's becoming evident by how Polynesians are just having such a huge influence above our quote unquote weight in the world. So appreciate 100%. Couldn't agree more, Brown Monk. This is a gathering of our people, and I 100% agree with that. Looking forward and hearing from Danny Suntoko. Yes, hopefully we can get Elon Musk, now that Starlink's there. Maybe we can get some reliable internet. He has made an effort to join, but just the internet connectivity is failing us. But with that being said, thank you, everyone. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay curious. And until next time, see you later. Malo. And for whoever still has some kava left over, kataki iareva, in one drink, finish it all. Peace.